I'm Glenn. Ryan was trying to explain to me, are you the co-president of MAGA Coalition? Is that co-founder? How does that work?
I'm the vice president.
Vice president, all right. All right, 30-second warning. All right, 5, 4, ready, steady, roll.
No country has ever prospered that failed to put its own interests first. Both our friends and our enemies put their countries above ours. And we, while being fair to them, must start doing the same. We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism. The nation state remains the true foundation for happiness and harmony. I am skeptical of international unions that tie us up and bring America down.
Hello and welcome to Right Now, the official podcast of New Right Network. I'm your host, War the Fanboys, and with me today is Glenn Herman of MAGA News Network and the Vice President of the MAGA Coalition. Glenn, thank you for being here.
Good to be here.
All right, Glenn, you've done a lot of things. You're a part of a lot of things here. For our listeners who may not be very familiar with you, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
I'm a middle-aged man who spent the bulk of his life from the early 20s up until, it's the recent present, working in technology. I was one of the first people in this new media space, not because I'm a genius, but because I was in the right place at the right time. I was working at a company called Prodigy before there was an America Online, slightly after the founding of CompuServe, to give you a date. So we're talking late 80s, early 90s. And I've always been politically active. I was one of the youngest people raising money for Ronald Reagan in 1980, when I could not even vote for him yet. I've never been a liberal. I've always been a conservative. I've never voted Democrat, nor have I ever, even in the slightest way, wanted to vote communist. In recent years, since my my focus has been more on politics. A friend of mine, his name is Adam Gingrich. He's a 25-year political operative for the GOP, more specifically lately, a political operative for Donald Trump and he and a few other people were instrumental in bringing Pennsylvania into the Trump world during the last election. And it was through my connection with him that he invited me to become vice president of his super PAC, the MAGA Coalition. I run something called MAGA News, the MAGA News Network, which is maganews.net, which is, say, conservative, well, Trump politics without a filter. So, people of my generation cling to this outmoded idea that we all want to be respectable. And so, you look at the recent debacle with Laura Ingraham. This is very instructive, right? So some people in their 50s and 60s, which I am in now, we have this desire to be corporate, to be acceptable, to always, if you're going to do a podcast, you want to make it seem like it's CNN, even though you hate CNN. I've always done it the opposite, which is the Lenny Bruce style, which is how do I actually talk? If you actually met me, then I'd say, hey, how the fuck are you? Or motherfucker, what's up? This is how I talk. I see no reason. Right, I see no reason to behave any differently. I think that's also part of the big lie, that none of us are worthy as we are. But I'm saying we are. So maybe you use profanity, maybe you drink too much, who knows? Maybe you might even be a gay person or smoke marijuana or do something that is considered unacceptable by the people out there that wish to be corporate, who wish to be acceptable. I hate those people. I spent years working in corporate America, most notably as an executive at IBM. And it almost killed me. Having to pretend to be somebody else takes its toll day after day. And I can't do it anymore. So if you watch the MAGA News Network, you're most likely going to be subjected to profanity, possibly sexual innuendo in connection to political figures, as in Bill Clinton may or may not currently be taking it up the ass. I might be the one giving it to him up the ass. We haven't quite decided whose ass and whose dick is involved, but we will get to the bottom of it.
We'll get to the bottom of it. All right, yeah. I like that. MAGA News Network. So you certainly wouldn't consider yourself politically correct, I assume. What do you think about the nature of political correctness in America right now?
Well, it's insidious. The right became, I don't know, limp-wristed, for lack of a better word. I mean, it lost its right to survive when it became weak. And when did that happen? It happened sometime first or second year of George H.W. Bush, somewhere around like 1990. I watched it happen. I was newly minted. I was in college or just getting out of college, going to get my first job. And everything that became normal to me during the Reagan period suddenly began to switch. And the main switch was Republican politicians became weak, and they stopped fighting at all costs, while the left, the communists, continued the no holds barred, give no quarter fighting. So from around 1990 on, only one political party was willing to go to the mattresses, and unfortunately it wasn't mine. So I hate it. I fucking hate all of this political correctness. You see, with Laura Ingraham, I was saying that is her love of money. It's how much money do you really need in one lifetime? How much money does she already have? More than enough to provide for her and her family 20 times over. Yet, she will be cowed by these motherfuckers, by some little asshole, some 20-year-old asshole talking bullshit. He will cow her. She will go hiding. She's in hiding now. Where is she? We don't know. No one will defend themselves. We're all afraid. And until we lose that fear, the country, possibly the planet, is fucked.
All right, fair enough. Uh, Glenn, I got to ask, you seem very impassioned. What is it that when you wake up in the morning, what is driving you in this fight against the left?
I know where we're headed. Okay, so in the mid 1980s, I had a friend in high school, and he was a German guy. But if you met him, you'd never know he was German. His English was flawless. And so I was telling him, you should take German class and just sail right through it. And he laughed. He said, no, that's bullshit, man. He goes, I want to learn Russian. So he took this Russian class and was learning Russian. So the big thing is the senior year trip, I think it was. They were going to go to the Soviet Union. This is a little long story, but I think it's worth it for your listeners, all right?
All right,
so this is around like 1984. Very apropos, right? When you say 1984.
Perfect.
And so it's like the winter of my discontent in 1984. And my friend, his name was Henning. He comes to me and he says, listen, our whole trip is going to get canceled to the Soviet Union. And we've spent all this time kissing the ass of the fucking Soviets and the In-Tourist Bureau, which was the communist tourist bureau. You know, everything was lined up, but we need a minimum of X number of people, and we don't have it. So we're opening it up to some select people who can come up with the bread. And I think it was like $800, which was a lot of money back in 1984, right? That was almost like $2,000 in purchasing power today. He's like, so you want to go? And I first looked at him, I said, are you out of your fucking mind? Why the hell would I want to go to the goddamn Soviet Union? It's like, where else can we? Maybe let's go to like Vietnam too. Can we go to Vietnam first and then go to the Soviet Union? Or, you know, so that was my thinking. That why go to a shithole? I'd much rather go to Paris. Hello?
Sure,
okay.
Absolutely.
Right. But as the days wore on, I started thinking about it. And I was reading a collected short essays of William F. Buckley at the time. It had just been published. And I started thinking, you know what? At the time I was, 18, 19? I said, you're going to regret not going. Because I knew that Reagan was going to bring these motherfuckers down, that the Soviet Union would not exist in my middle-aged years. Little did I know it wouldn't exist by the end of that decade, but whatever. I then said, I'm going. So we paid the money, and me and two or three other non-Russian class people made it possible for them to go to the Soviet Union. So I went to the Soviet Union in February, March of 1985. And what I saw, it's still with me. You ask me, what do I think about when I wake up in the morning? Why am I so animated? Most middle-aged people my age are sitting around bullshitting. Either they have a mistress, they're spending time with their mistress or their cat. In my case, on a tractor, mowing 30 acres in the summer. But what keeps me going is I've seen the place that these motherfuckers want to create here. I've been there. I've seen it. I've talked to the people who live there, and believe you me, we don't want that here. Political correctness existed in the Soviet Union back in the 1930s and 40s, what to speak of the time when I went there toward the last 10 years of the Soviet Empire. People were afraid to say simple things like they loved their uncle because they didn't know if their uncle was on the good list or the bad list that day. People didn't look ahead of them when they walked on the streets. They looked at the ground. Even people walking together didn't look at each other. They looked at the ground. This was a demoralized country. And the more I see the tactics of the international left, because that's what we're talking about. You can say Democrat Party, you can say Progressive Party, they're all internationalists. These are totalitarian people. I've been to the place that they want to create here, and it keeps me up at night. What to speak of what keeps me going when I wake up.
All right, fantastic. So you've seen firsthand a communist regime, and it sounds like it changed you.
Not a communist regime, the communist regime, right? So whatever's left now, communist wise, it's all soft communist, like Western Europe, like New York, like Los Angeles. It's a benign, smiley face communism. But this, we used to have this expression. The leftists had this expression in the 1960s and 70s. They would use it amongst themselves. They would say things like, to somebody who was a lefty, but not a full-on commie, someone who didn't believe in like murdering capitalists, these type of people would say to the regular liberal type, comrade, we can cure your weak socialism with our strong Bolshevism. This was what they actually would say to each other. So it's this kind of militant Bolshevism, which I see in this youth movement, in the Occupy Wall Street, and all of its other names. It's the same group, like a snake shedding its skin time and time again.
Sure.
But we changed the name. It's the same people with the same funding sources using the same fucking buses to move them from the same cities to a different location for the same end. It's the same shit. I've seen it my entire life. I'm going on 40 years now of watching these motherfuckers and how they do what they do. And that's what makes me want to fight. We have to beat these people. And the young people now, the best thing I've seen, and I was asking this question in the 70s, in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, when will our side produce enough people that are willing to fight fire with the same methodology that these bastards on the left are? And this generation, for the first time, the mimetic warfare, the mocking, getting up front, and making it happen at the social level. Andrew Breitbart, right? All politics is downstream from culture. We now have, for the first time, people on the right. They're generally under the age of 28, under the age of 30. I'm 50, to give you an idea of the age difference. But now I'm seeing people willing to fight these bastards in the way they fight us. And we never defended ourselves. For 40 years, we didn't defend ourselves. Finally, with stuff like New Right Network, a host of other people out there, we're fighting it, taking the fight and bringing it to them, and we're winning.
Yeah, so it sounds like you really have a lot of hope for the future generations.
I have no hope for my own generation. Even if you could take a time machine and go back to 1983, if you had asked me, as many people did, don't you think our generation, Glenn, don't you think our generation is going to make a difference? Back in high school, I would tell these people to their face, not only is this generation not going to make a difference, it's going to be as pathetic and as polluted as the one before us, the stupid 60s idiots. That our generation lucked out having Reagan in the White House, but we did nothing to fight for him. We did nothing to support him, right? The first generation that gave me any hope was the one that went to Iraq and Afghanistan. Not that I'm a big supporter of these international adventures using our military for dubious purposes, right? But I noticed that those guys who were in the 18, 19, 20, 21, when they came back, had their heads screwed on right. And I was thinking, like, after World War II, my uncle, my father's generation, they came back and they were they were like this engine of common sense coming from a war, right? You have common sense, something the libs don't have any of, right? If a man can have a vagina and a woman can have a penis, there is no common sense. It's gone, right?
I agree there.
Right. So you have these guys coming back from the Desert Storm. I started seeing things changing, but very slowly. It really kicked into overdrive in the last 2 or 3 years with the rise of these armies of young Trump supporters who are willing to throw themselves into the breach with these liberal assholes, all being funded and coordinated through George Soros' shell companies, Michael Bloomberg's shell companies, Media Matters, all of these garbage internationalist concerns. We have warfare going on with normal kids who are throwing themselves against these very very well-funded oppositional forces, and we're winning. How do we know we're winning? Because en masse, they're trying to have us deplatformed. That means we're winning. They're in fear.
Fantastic. So would you call it a culture war that we're in right now?
It's always been a cultural war. The only problem is our side only recognized it as such officially maybe 2 or 3 years ago. You should have seen me in the 80s and 90s. We were screaming that there is a cultural war going on, but only one side realizes that that's what it is, and that was the left. They instigated it.
Well, thankfully, the right does seem to be waking up. I do agree with you there. Now, you mentioned, I'm going to get to some questions here from the listeners. You mentioned that you worked with Gingrich to bring PA to Trump, which we know this was the first time Pennsylvania voted Republican in 28 years. Movie Time Blue asks, what are your views on what happened in PA District 18, where we saw Rick Saccone, who was endorsed by Trump, lose to Lamb in what was very traditionally a Republican area?
Yeah, it was surprising. But, if we're going to be honest about it, which I'm all about that, Saccone was like a zombie candidate. He was walking through his campaign like a fucking zombie. If you saw some of his few campaign events, it was almost like, the electrodes were on his testicles and they would have to hit the button every 30 seconds to keep the guy awake. Now, I can say this because I don't know Rick Saccone. I'm not a political operative. But there are people who are pulling. I was pulling for Saccone simply because never vote willingly for the communist. This has been my raison d'etre for 40 years, that I would never support the commie, right? And so this guy they have now, Lamb, is pretending to be something that he's not. And by the way, for those of people here that were awake in the 1970s and the 1980s, up until the end of the Clinton administration, generally the Democrats never ran on their actual beliefs. So Obama was something new in that effect. That usually they always ran as lefty Republicans, when in fact they were commies. Obama they had their coming out party as Marxists. And so now what you're watching is their party being split in half. They can't figure out, is their future Marxism, or is the future going back to the old ways, which is pretending that we're not commies and that we're patriots. And that's the sort of fraternal war that's going on now in the Democrat Party.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their platform evolves into by 2020. The next question I have here is from Rsash1980. He asks, what happened between you and Your Voice America, which for listeners, that is the show hosted by Bill Mitchell. Apparently you two had a falling out, and he must know, what's the deal?
I never had a problem with Bill Mitchell, who we affectionately refer to as Mill Bitchell. My problem specifically was with his president, the president of Your Voice. Her name is Ann Vandersteel. She's a liar. She's not a good person. And anything that she's involved with is, in my opinion, it is suspect. And her behavior, there was a time that I was considering joining the Your Voice team. But Adam Gingrich asked me to help him with the PAC. It's a very long story. And actually, we're at this point where it's so many months have gone by. I don't really care about it anymore. To me, they're like a moribund entity. They are doing everything possible to make it look like they still have a happening thing going, but they're just these people like the ones I was describing at the beginning of the interview. They're so desperate to be considered corporate and nice and clean and lovely. You know, they no profanity on Mill Mitchell's show, and everything is cheerleading to the point where I believe it's toxic. They are cheerleading to the point where Trump can make no mistake, and everything is 12D chess. And my friends, if you are succumbing to this bullshit, then you will be in like a soma-induced, stupefied state. We need you awake, like in the Matrix, right? We need you awake and seeing reality so we can actually fight. Fight for the president, fight for the MAGA agenda, and not be lulled into this false security that, you know, the president is a million steps ahead of everyone, and his enemies are not having some... His enemies have power. We know it. We've seen it. We know if we lose the House that the Democrats... Adam Gingrich says it's a coin flip whether they go with impeachment or not. These are serious things. This is not a joke, right? It isn't 12D chess. The president needs us to fight for his agenda. And the people at Your Voice America, their position is that, you know, Sessions is a secret white hat working for Trump. Mueller might even be working for Trump. This is... if I was running an opposition to the president, this is what I would be paying people to say, to lull us into a false sense of security. I've been watching politics for 4 decades closely, and I'm telling you, this is one of the most dangerous times we've been in as, you know, doctrinaire movement conservatives. And it doesn't help when you have people talking a lot of bullshit, because they want to create some kind of idea that everything is okay. Everything is not okay. You know, we are moving toward a very non-okay place, and it's going to take every one of us fighting to get us out of this.
All right, and so you say that not everything is 12D chess. Do you believe that Trump has made some mistakes so far in his presidency, or...
Well, don't you? Can't we see clearly? He himself has said what his mistakes are, right? Jeff Sessions is the biggest mistake of his presidency. He trusted Jeff Sessions to be a loyal person, and Jeff Sessions stabbed him in the back and continues to stab him in the back every day. And people that continue with this bullshit that Jeff Sessions is secretly his best friend and they're working together to some end, some weird end. Consider this. The language that Donald Trump uses about Jeff Sessions is the exact same language he uses for his enemies. There is no way, if you are being honest with yourself, that you could say Donald Trump appreciates the job Jeff Sessions is doing. He does not. And Jeff Sessions is doing everything possible to shield the deep state people and to leave the president hanging out to dry on a daily basis. So and I think people that are trying to convince us otherwise either are paid opposition or they're dumb as fuck.
All right, so your position is that Sessions is big time part of the swamp.
He's been co-opted. He's been threatened. He's going along with their agenda. And he doesn't give a shit about the president anymore. He does not give a shit. I challenge anybody to find concrete evidence that he does.
All right, so you say that we do need to fight for the MAGA agenda. What is the biggest thing that conservatives need to look out for and basically do in the 2018 midterms to make sure the MAGA agenda succeeds?
We need to look to the president for our cues. This whole recent unpleasantness with Steve Bannon, if it has done anything for me, it's crystallized our total dependence on the president of the United States. When you're seeing these other people inserting themselves into the discussions, why you have to ask, why are they doing it? You know, Steve Bannon was giving some great speeches, but the first 10 minutes of each of those speeches, he would tell a little story about how Donald Trump won the presidency. And oh, what a surprise. In that story, he was the main character practically, right? And many people, including Sundance at Conservative Treehouse, correctly pointed out this idea of the poison tree bearing poison fruit, right? That if you're telling a story that's patently false, that Steve Bannon was the decisive factor in Trump's victory, then many of us should have been a little bit less trusting of him. And it turned out Adam Gingrich tipped off at least our little group over at maganews.net last February, not talking a year ago to the day practically. We have periscopes up where he's warning us that Steve Bannon is a leaker. Steve Bannon has been passing secret information to Chuck Johnson, and Chuck Johnson has been passing that information to Mike Cernovich, and Mike Cernovich is making a new career for himself as a source of secret information. And that secret information was harming the presidency of Donald John Trump. And so way back when Adam Gingrich was tipping us off, this guy can't be 100% trusted. So when the day came and the president turned on him in the way he's now turned on Sessions, none of our group were surprised or disturbed by it, because we'd had 9 to 10 months of being prepared for this by Adam. You still there?
Yeah. So in your eyes, Glenn, who are the people that we can trust? Is it anybody aside from Donald Trump?
No.
All right. Yeah, I feel like I do have to agree with you on that. Glenn, do you think that Trump is the greatest conservative president we've had since Reagan?
He's greater than Reagan. And now you have to understand, for me to make a statement like that, what that means. For me, from the time I was in high school, Ronald Reagan was the greatest, not only the greatest period of my life, but as a president, as a man, as an American, Ronald Reagan was the top in my mind. And for 30 years after his passing, or after his leaving the White House, everyone knows the story of Ronald Reagan. It was like the way, Christians talk about Jesus, right? Or the Hindus talk about Krishna, or the Jews talk about Moses, right? You talk about Ronald Reagan, it's like the holy of the holies. That's what Ronald Reagan means to me. But I'm telling you, Donald John Trump is greater than Ronald Reagan. Why? Because President Trump is the first person to be in the White House where the common man has a chance of having their liberties restored.
All right. We had a guest, Rod Eccles, who claimed that he believes Donald Trump is a man touched by God. Would you share those sentiments?
Well, I mean, clearly you can be touched by God, but to what end? Right? I mean, you can be touched by God, and your mission at that point is to fall from grace, to be an example to others of what not to do. You can be touched by God to be the opposite, to be raised up, and to be the example for others to follow. So it's not so much the being touched by God. I assume what he's saying is that God is using President Trump to bring about a revival in the United States of liberty and freedom, and I would agree with that. But, I'm always a little shy to start bringing 100%, bringing in God to everything, because
Sure.
Everybody is saying that. Our enemies are saying that God is anointing them. We're saying God is anointing us. I would like to think that we're right and they're wrong, of course.
Sure,
but,
as do they.
Yeah, but I think the proof is in the pudding. If Donald Trump is able to drain the swamp and restore individual liberty and reverse 60 years of progressivism/totalitarianism, which has been robbing us of all of our dignity as human beings as well as our civil rights, if he can actually do that in the 8 years he's here, I think it will be really for the historians, the way they talked about Reagan. When Reagan was in the office, they treated him just like they're treating Donald Trump now. If you weren't there, you don't know. I was there. I'm telling you, it was horrible the way they treated him. But by the time of his death, even the libturd assholes were saying, oh, Ronald Reagan, great president, brought America's spirit back. You know, like they were the false crocodile tear motherfuckers. But how things can change in 20 years when you're no longer president.
Yep.
I'm confident that Donald Trump is going to go down as the best president since the founding father era, and that it will be universally accepted that God was working through him to restore human dignity and freedom once again
Glenn,
in the United States.
You're speaking my language now. I agree with you that Trump will certainly go down as one of the best, if not the greatest president of all time.
Well,
now,
it's great to start something, right? To build something is not easy. But when somebody, due to not being careful with the thing that was built, lets it go to shit, it's also equally as difficult to rebuild it, isn't it?
Absolutely. 10 Gauge asks, what do you think about the controversy regarding the census question about citizenship?
Why is this controversial? You see, it's controversial only because our enemies wish to make it normal and everyday to have illegal motherfuckers in this country. Right? If your mission is to keep the country for the citizens, wow, what a novel concept. There literally is no other country on the fucking planet that has any other agenda than keeping the country for its citizens. Maybe with the exception of Germany, right? But with that, if you go to the third world, like I lived all over the world when I was younger. I lived in India. I lived in Egypt, a couple different places. None of those countries that are emerging economies have time to indulge any of this horseshit, this idea that people there illegally have rights. You go to Mexico as an illegal, you could face a firing squad, right? At best, you'll be beaten, thrown in a prison, urinated on for a couple weeks, and then unceremoniously chucked back over the southern border, which, by the way, the Mexican southern border is replete with machine gun towers, military encampments, etc. But when we say something simple like, if we're going to do a census, I think it might be good to know who's a citizen and who's not, for purposes that... Here's a great question, guys. If New York City, which dominates the politics of New York State, right? So if 20% of New York City are a bunch of fucking illegal scumbags, why should New York State benefit by getting more representation if the representation is based on illegal assholes? Is this really so controversial? It is, in the sense that in a society where criminality has become the norm, stating that you're hiring more police and you're going to crack down on the criminals might seem controversial. That is my answer.
All right, thank you. Theory asks, Brendan Dilley, who is running for Congress in Arizona, she wants to know, what did he do to lose your support?
Well, he didn't run a real campaign. Right, he came out real strong with that video with Kavanaugh, and I liked it. I thought, yeah, this guy, he's got some stones. He can defend himself. But then it became apparent to me that it wasn't a real campaign. It was a money-making exercise. And then there was the constant lying and gaslighting of his own supporters. To me, that's unforgivable. When you tell your donors and your supporters day after day that you've got 41% of the vote and it's all locked up. Meanwhile, because we have here at the MAGA coalition, which I'm the vice president of, we have so many people that we can call in Arizona and say, what's really going on? And they're telling me Dilley's percentage of support is so low, it barely registers at 1%. This is what I was being told day after day, week after week. Meanwhile, he's gaslighting people on Facebook Live, on Twitter, not in the real world, because, see, a real candidate has to go door to door, shaking hands, putting on a lot of Purell on your hands because you don't know where the other people's hands have been. And you've got to do that every second of the day, kissing the babies, pictures with the wife, the husband, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, smiling. Keep that smile going, motherfucker. You only got another 6 hours to go today, my friend. And that's every day until election day. He wasn't doing that. What was he doing? Sitting on his fucking toilet doing periscopes, saying that he was 41% ahead, that he was a surefire winner, when in fact, he had less than 1% of the vote. I could go on and on and on. I choose not to. Next question.
Sure. Well, you also mentioned Kevin Kavanaugh. Are you a fan of Kevin still?
No, I never was. I always thought he was kind of a weasel. So... But I mean, so what? Look, just because I don't like somebody doesn't mean I'm going to be unduly unfair. Just because I thought he was kind of weak and weaselly doesn't mean that if somebody says something against him that's untrue, I won't defend him. Now, in this case, Kevin Kavanaugh wouldn't have been someone I could get behind unless he won. Because, look, I was saying if this Dilly character pulls off the greatest upset in political history and becomes our candidate, that I would pull for him. And I mean it. I would have pulled for him. Why? Because you never willingly vote for or help the communist. Even if it's a fake person with a fake campaign, I would rather shill for him than a fucking Democrat any day of the week.
All right, great. Now, Tara asked a follow-up question here. She says that Dilly claims you are the one responsible for his Twitter account being suspended. Is that true?
No. See, here's the thing about me. I'm going to give away a secret. I've tried to cultivate this idea in my enemies over the last 6 months that I'm always awake, I'm always working to defeat them, etc. The truth is, I'm middle-aged, and during this whole period where Dilly was tweeting, by his own admission, right? It's there. If you go to his Periscope, the day his Periscope was taken down, he admitted that he had tweeted directly to the communists. And I will quote, "If you try to take my guns, I will shoot you. This is not a threat. It is a promise." That was his tweet. Now, he didn't tweet that to a bunch of right-wing NRA people like me. He tweeted it directly to that David Hogg and all of those organizations. So guess what happened? They all mass reported him. And that's how he lost his shit. And he admitted to this on his first Periscope. Then Ann Vandersteel and these other cast of characters didn't waste any time to try to drag me and the MAGA coalition into it. Here's my advice, guys. If you want to keep your Twitter account, don't type into the window, "I will shoot you." Seriously. It's not a good plan. I had nothing to do with his stupidity. I didn't put the bong in his fucking mouth day after day. All the stupidity coming out of this guy. He hates me because I was calling him for his shit during his fake campaign, and I will admit to this openly, because it's still up. If you go to maganews.net, you can watch my show called The Evening of Humiliation. I did a 2-hour show when he barely got 1% of the vote, a savage takedown of this prick, of this stupid motherfucker. I reveled in his evil stupidity, and I mocked him for 2 hours, and it hurt. And since that day, his little minions and his friends have been trying to scheme of ways to fuck me up the ass. For instance, they're trying to say I got rid of his Twitter account, but the fact that they had me deplatformed off Periscope, because there's a little thing you can do in Periscope. If you can get enough people to go live into someone's Periscope, if they all mass report you as abuse or as violence or whatever, there aren't enough employees at Periscope. There's just a script that will kill your account. So they discovered this. They killed my Periscope account. This is why we're on Vimeo now. Right? I had to pony up $1,000 to get an account on Vimeo. So I find it kind of interesting that they are blaming me after he makes material threats. I will shoot you. Right? That is how you lose your account in the world of the libtard. If you're a gun supporter and you write shit like I'm going to shoot you, they're going to fuck you. And then blaming me after his people had me kicked off Periscope. This is the kind of shit that also makes me wake up in the morning. I will set my alarm clock back 1 full hour just so I have 1 more hour awake that I can fuck you.
All right, Glenn, great. Now, speaking of material threats on Twitter, recently a DJ by the name of Ben Pierce from London has claimed to have sent President Trump cyanide.
Yes.
Have you heard of this? And what are your thoughts, if so?
It's clearly bullshit. See, here's the good thing. He's in London, right? Right? He's in London, right? Oh, I sent the powder, yeah? I sent some powder. Oh, it was fucking brilliant, man. I sent the powder. But how does the Secret Service, do they even have jurisdiction in London? I don't know. How does that work? Do they have to request the London police on their behalf to go ask the questions? I mean, it's like a New York cop trying to travel to Los Angeles and conduct an investigation when his department hasn't worked it out with the LAPD. Sure. So in a way, what is the law in England making these kind of statements against essentially a foreigner, the President of the United States? You know, you don't see Americans saying this crap because then the Secret Service will be there within 24 hours with the rubber gloves, the Vaseline, and that long metal thing that they're going to put where, right? Right, it's bend over time. And I'm not talking about that porn guy. I'm talking about really taking it up the rectum.
This is Bill Clinton territory now.
Exactly. Well, more like maybe Gary Cohn character, whatever. So yeah, Bill Clinton, I think, likes to give it up the ass. I'm not sure he's receiving. Maybe Obama. It's Obama territory because he's taking it up the juice hole many a time. Right, Reggie? Okay, so I don't think it's real. I think it's just more misdirection. The media loves this crap. Just as with the president is making some traction, isn't it interesting when the Rasmussen poll comes out showing that he's got very high support now, 51% support through Rasmussen, around the exact same moment, suddenly there's this other story. This is how the game is played, by the way. It's not checkers, it's chess when it's done correctly. And it's predictable. And so if you start if you start looking for when the president starts winning in the media, you can almost predict to the hour that these kind of misdirection stories will be dropped. It's complete horseshit. Look, whether it's true or not, it's not worth our attention, because if we give it our attention, then the media wins.
All right, misdirection from the media. That's we've certainly seen a lot of that, especially with the Stormy Daniels story, and exactly. always some sort of nonsense about Trump that really has no bearing on this country. Now, you mentioned we talked about a few candidates who you weren't a big fan of. Are there any candidates running right now that you support big time and that you'd want listeners to research and potentially vote for?
Here's the problem. Any candidate that I come out and support, there is a army of people that will then go attack those people and demand that they distance themselves from me. And this is not like some psychotic rambling from a middle-aged guy with delusions of self-importance. It's actually happening. So I refuse to play the game. Here's the thing. The MAGA coalition will be announcing sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks a list of candidates that we can get behind, that we consider to be MAGA. And I'll be attaching my name to that list. So you can go to MAGAcoalition.com in the next couple of weeks and look for them. I'll tell you this Saturday I'm going to a fundraiser for a congressional candidate in Florida. Her name is Angie Chirino, and she was recently interviewed on the Wayne Dupree show. And
I think I
I'm
saw
looking forward to seeing what she has to say, if that makes any sense to you.
Oh, perfect. I believe was she the Grammy
Yes.
winner?
Right. She's a second generation Cuban. She was in the music industry, right? She's got a very interesting story. And from what I can see, you can go check out, I think it was March 30th show, the March 30th show of Wayne Dupree, the Angie Chirino interview. It's the first 30 minutes of the show. Our president, Adam Gingrich, hearing that interview, it was her first real media interview, by the way. He scored her at 95% perfect.
Fantastic.
So I think she's going to be an exciting candidate down in Florida.
All right, we'll definitely be looking out for her. Now, Glenn, I got to ask you, we know your thoughts on illegal aliens here in this country, and we know you hate them. But what are your thoughts on extraterrestrial aliens? Are they out there, and are they here?
Well, from the time of the ancient times, it has been accepted. I mean, even in the folklore of the Native American Indians, in their own stories, their creation myth involves being brought to this planet by entities that did not originate here. So my feeling is that, yes, there probably is life out there in the universe. If there's life here, it's not a big stretch to say if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. Now, that's not the same thing as to say that these stories, the mythos that's been created,
right.
that they're grays with big eyes that like hanging out in New Mexico or whatever.
And probing people.
Right. I mean, that may be true. That may be bullshit. I can't say one way or the other. What I can say is it seems to me a very illogical position that if we can see with our own eyes that this planet is teeming with life and the universe is so huge and vast that we've only seen less than 1 or 2% of it with our most strong telescope, I think it's a fool's bet that this universe we're in, that we're the only. It seems the height of hubris, doesn't it?
True.
It's like these guys who's that unless you're part of my religion, then you don't exist, or that it seems like whenever you have this kind of super exclusionary viewpoint on things, it always ends up in some place that's bad for everyone. And so I'm thinking this idea, it was very popular 150 years ago, that the Earth was the center of the universe, right? And you could actually be put in prison. Ask Copernicus and Galileo how this works, that if you actually say something to the opposite, that the Earth is not the center of the universe, or that even the Earth is not the center of the solar system, that you could be thrown in jail, murdered, etc. It seems to me that people making these kind of arguments always end up being wrong. And so I think someone with an open mind, you have to look around and see the Earth just doesn't have one type of life. It has billions of different life represented here. Why is it so hard to imagine, given the size of the known universe, that we are the only place where there is life? It seems foolish to me.
Oh, I agree. And I got to ask you, Glenn, is there anything worse than a fucking commie?
Yes, I can say there is. A commie sympathizer is worse. The worst people you're ever going to meet are not on their side. It will be on our side.
All right. Deep thoughts here by Glenn Herman. Glenn, we're almost out of time here. Is there any parting words you have that we didn't get a chance to get to?
Never stop fighting. When they've got you on the floor and the knife to your throat, that's when you're going to find out who you are. And I hope, like for my own life, that you find out that you're not afraid and that you're willing to die but you're much more happy to kill.
All right, Glenn, thank you so much, everybody. This is Glenn Herman. Where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, if you haven't already made a mockery of your own life enough, please come join us at the MAGA News Network. You can go to maganews.net, where you can hear all sorts of dirty words and some top-notch political analysis. We just try to have a lot of fun. Right? I may be middle-aged, but I haven't lost that, that youthful desire to have some fun. I think that's what it's about. We want to win. We want to make America great again. But if you can't have a good time while you're doing it, what's the point? Then we become like leftists, dour, miserable all the time. How can you have a laugh when the oppression of the whatever they call it, the heterodoxy or whatever. They have so many nonsense words, right? If we're not having fun, there's no point. And so it's not enough just to have some good political analysis, but we need to do it in a way that's enjoyable, entertaining, and lifts the spirits so we can all be happy warriors waking up the next day ready to get shit on by the libs. And they have no end of turds to dump on us.
Well, Glenn, I know I can say that I certainly had fun today. I want to thank you so much for being here, and I hope we can have you back again sometime.
I'm around. As I said, I'm waking up 1 hour earlier now just to fuck my enemies, so I've got more time,
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Glenn.
Thank you.
All right, stream is over. Thank
just
you,
so
everybody.
You know, we're still live on my show, so anything you say is still being heard by my audience, okay?
Oh, shit.
So you're going to have to be careful where you usually tell me how much you love me. We don't want it to... we don't want to get the wrong idea here.
You bald motherfucker.
So that was fun. So this was a live voice stream is what I just participated in, right?
Correct. We had folks listening here in Discord, submitting their questions. We had folks watching on Periscope.
That's cool. So I was on Periscope after they banned me. I love that. Oops. You know what I just did, guys? I just hung up on the guy. Jesus. There you go. Why am I like that? I was thinking that he wasn't part of this, Discord. I don't like having a lot of things open on my desktop. So I have to, let's go back in and see what happened. He's a nice guy. Let's see what we got. Back. Here we go. There it is. All right. Are you there?
Hold on.
You guys there?
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Desperado.
Are you there?
Oh, hey, Glenn. Yeah. We lost you for 2 minutes. What I did was we closed down the lockdown voice room, but you're free if you want to hang out and chat with everybody.
Yeah, I'm here, and people. Let's see if any of my audience have questions for you guys at the New Right Network, which is, by the way.
Okay, that was crazy.
Where do you live, Glenn?
Where do I live? I have two main places of residence. One is New York City, and the other is the forest.
Well, I didn't even know it was, but I mean...
Yes?
What are you doing? Huh?
Tara, are you having a hold on? Tara, are you having a conversation with somebody else? All right. Sorry about that, Glenn.
That's all right.
That's part of the trouble of having the open chat sessions. This is why we keep it all locked down for the actual interview.
Yes, my friend Smooch Panda is pointing out here in my chat that this Brendan Dildo hates us because we beat him and his idiot followers easily, and then we showed that we were having fun as we destroyed them. so they can't forgive us for that.
So you spit on their grave, essentially.
We did, and in fact, that's exactly what I called it. The night of our show where we spat on his grave, I actually said this is the equivalent of spitting on this guy's political grave, and not a moment too soon.
How do you claim 41% when you wind up with 1%? That's a pretty big
It's called
miscalculation.
Lying, right? It's called
it's
lying.
a pretty big lie.
Right. It's like me telling you that I'm fucking all these supermodels. In fact, one is sucking my dick right now. Oh, you see, I just came. But this kind of bullshit is almost forgivable if the scenario, the setting where I'm making these lies up is like we've had like 7 beers and it's 2 a.m. and I'm just full of shit. It takes on a kind of insidiousness though when you are ostensibly running for Congress and the lies are not being told to your enemies, but they're being told to your donors. To me, that's when this asshole crossed the line.
Oh yeah,
and that's when I went on full attack mode.
At that point.
I mean, what do you think about that? You know, you're telling your donors that you're 41% in the poll.
Absolutely.
Unforgivable.
I mean, that's probably criminal fraud. Some sort of I'm sure some sort of securities fraud. I'm not a financial guy, but basically anything that you say to defraud people out of their money, that's criminal territory.
Well, yeah, except that in the course of a campaign, lying is acceptable. So I'm not saying that any real crimes took place, because if they did, that's up for the election boards, the FEC. They're the ones who determine that. What I am saying, from a moral perspective, I don't think we can view the gaslighting of your own people, the lying to your own donors. I think it's immoral. That's where I was coming from. I think he's gone. I think it's just us. Oh, he's here. He put us on mute.
I'm just listening to your rant, Glenn.
That's a lie. You put us on mute because you're doing something else in your office.
Well, I got a supermodel here too.
I knew it. I have many supermodels that I bang on a regular basis. Unfortunately, they were supermodels in the 1960s. So I have to help them with the dentures, putting them in and out and all that.
What's up, Desperado?
Yeah, Glenn, I'm a 66-year-old retired steel hauler and live in the same city as War, and you remind me of me.
All right. Well, I take that as a compliment because you actually did something with your life. All these people I'm surrounded with now, they haven't done anything except maybe pretend that they did something. It takes something to do something for 30 years and put fucking food on the table and be a man. And there's not enough of that in our society. We've got a bunch of idiots preening around like they're peacocks. But what have you done? Have you woken up when you didn't feel like waking up? Go into a job that you've grown to hate? Answer's no. It's good to meet you, sir. So you live in the same city as this, as Mr. War, as we call him here, right?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. All right. Well, the president of the MAGA coalition is in Central PA as well. I think one of these days, next time I'm up there, I should bring you guys out for some drinks and dinner. It'd be great to meet you guys.
Well, me and War are going to dinner next Friday.
Yeah. This will be the first time we've met in a real life scenario.
Oh, one of those.
So if I get raped and murdered, everybody please,
right?
Please avenge my death.
Right, if they find your broken body bleeding from the anus behind the hot water pipes at the bus station, I'll be sure to get right on that, Timo Sabi.
I appreciate it.
Hey, Ward, just bring your wallet with you.
All right.
Yes, feel free not to take the balance of your withdrawal and leave it in the cigar box. Bring it all to this meeting. This is... So your website is newrightnetwork.com, right?
Let me see if it newrightnetwork.com.
Right, I put that up on my show tonight on the bottom so that everyone can go there, subscribe to the alerts, find out about Discord, your Twitter, and all. You got all the social media, all of them.
Yeah, we definitely got a good social media director who was
Yes.
in this chat room, but looks like dropped off just a few moments ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
that's
was by far the best AMA we've ever had.
Damn, Desperado.
the best AMA. Did I hear that correct?
Yep.
What exactly was so great? Is it because
Well,
people tell me-
we do have a lot of political candidates on this show, and like you said about political correctness and people, they try to give off this persona that they're clinical and sterile. We do get folks like that in from time to time, or pretty.
Yeah, Glenn, you're raw and to the point.
Yep,
Well,
that's how I'd call them.
But that's the thing. I've met a lot of these political guys, right? I worked in Washington, D.C. for like 5 or 6 years as a government contractor, right? And so I got a chance to hang out with a lot of the people who work in government. And in real life, they talk exactly the way we do. But when they get in front of the camera, they pretend like, they're the church lady or the altar boy. And at some point, it just made me angry that they would destroy someone because they talk the way that everyone talks. And so I have no more interest. Yeah, I don't have an interest in playing their game anymore. If they're going to say, oh, well, Glenn Herman is an asshole because he said that numerous times, maybe hundreds, if not thousands of times, I am on the record saying that Governor Andrew Cuomo is a cocksucker, right? So if I am to be attacked for that, then that is the hill that I will happily die on. It would be the biggest honor of my life to be annihilated for that, right? That's how I'm thinking.
All right. Hey, do you have any thoughts on Austin Peterson? We had him on. He's sort of a libertarian Republican running for Senate. Do you have any thoughts on him?
No. I'm not completely. I don't want to say anything about someone I'm not. Are you talking about?
He was the guy.
Austin?
He gave Austin Peterson. He gave a flintlock pistol to Gary Johnson.
Ah. Now I know who you're talking about. Yes, the one that Gary Johnson apparently, I think he threw it in a garbage pail or something.
Snubbed him.
Yeah, I'm looking at his website now. Yeah, he has the correct buzzwords. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at his priorities, healthcare, jobs, taxes, spending. I'm just looking to see. Criminal justice reform. Right, he wants to end the war. So he's a libertarian.
Oh, yeah, he's certainly more libertarian than many of the Republican candidates.
Well, so am I. I mean, my feeling is if you want to throw your life away on heroin, that's your choice, and maybe the government can make some money off taxing it. Should be able to buy your heroin at Costco. Maybe get a couple dollars off if you buy in bulk. And feel free to kill yourself. We'll all be happy when you shoot that hot load of skag up your arm or between your toes, and then you die. We've saved the healthcare system millions of dollars. Where's the downside?
Yeah, I love your website.
Yeah, the maganews.net.
Yep.
I threw that together in 3 days.
It's a really nice website. You can tweet and send the links all over the place.
When our enemies were able to get us deplatformed off Periscope, I had already been kind of working in my spare time on this. Here's the thing: you're doing streams, you're doing live news, you're from a conservative center right perspective. you can see that even if you do nothing, all of our presences on the social media websites, the time is coming to an end. You can see that, right? They're going to kick us all off or try or die trying. So, maybe it's good that you're on Discord. They'll be one of the last ones to try to purge us. But it looks to me like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter want to get rid of all of the prominent voices on the president's side before the midterms. They don't want to they think it was a mistake allowing freedom of expression during the election. Right? They actually believe if they'd kicked us all off Twitter and Facebook, then Hitler would have won. They think that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think the censorship is slowing down any.
No, it's going to get worse. There's going to be a mass culling of conservatives on the major platforms in the next couple of months. I think by like June or July, they're going to just
right in time
get
for the
rid
midterms, of course.
Well, that's the point. They believe that it was the lack of censorship of us that put Trump over the edge.
How do you fight it, Glenn? What's the alternative? I mean, YouTube's like the second most visited site in the world.
Yeah, but only because we continue to use it. See, here's the thing. We don't like Hulu. We don't like Netflix. We don't like what Delta did. We don't like what Hertz did. But we continue to use them. This is what Dr. Martin Luther King was preaching back in the 1950s and 60s, which is you can starve the beast, hit him in the pocketbook, but it takes things happening to motivate people to do it. Otherwise, you're dealing with the majority of the country is like 3/4 asleep. It's like talking to your wife when she's basically asleep. And you're trying to get her to remember something. Hit or miss.
It's not like she's going to remember it anyway.
Well, sometimes she does. Most of the time she doesn't. But hope springs eternal, right? And so if people are basically asleep, we're trying to do a boycott here, a boycott there. It's all scattershot. It's not directed. It's not laser focused. I think once enough of us get kicked off Twitter and YouTube, I think people will do what I've done and what you've done. Make a website and try to direct everyone to your website. And whatever social media you happen to be using at that time, they can go to your website and find you that way. But if one day your Twitter account disappears, they're already conditioned to go to your website. So you don't disappear from their minds. And that's what we're doing now.
That's what I was just going to say. Do you think enough people like us are awake yet?
I think there is a critical mass, my friend. I think we reached that when the president won. There are enough people that are awake now that I think percentage-wise, the same as when the country was founded all those centuries ago. That, you have a certain percentage was awake to liberty in 1770. What percentage is it? Some people say it was 2%. Some people might say it's 3%. Some people say it might be 5 or 6%. Whatever that percentage is, I think we have it now. Right? We have achieved it. And how do I know? Because the libs are freaking out. They don't act like they're on top of the world anymore. They're acting the way we were acting in 2006 when we lost everything. Lost the House, lost the Senate. And we had that morbid feeling that the presidency was around the corner as a loss. And boy, were we right. They're in that same boat now. Even if they manage to eke out some victory in the House, I don't think long term it's looking good for them. Enough people are awake now. They don't want to hear this gun-grabbing bullshit circa 1968. That is the last century stupid ideas, just like Karl Marx. How can you take it seriously in 2018? Only old men and old women whose lives are used up, who've never gotten a grip on reality, still talk about Karl Marx.
Yeah, and when you talk about these young kids and how you saw this stuff firsthand, I really think that just a lack of history is why you see so many of these kids, be swayed by this Marxism bullshit, and who, you've got people on Reddit that are literally pro-communist, that are, American students that want to see communism in the United States. And I think it's just a lack of awareness and history that's responsible for this. I can't think of anything else.
Well, communism on its surface, and we call it communism, but it could also be referred to as totalitarianism. It could be called mob rule. You could describe the thing in many different phrases, but let's stick with communism because I'm comfortable talking in Cold War terms, being that I'm still at heart a Cold War person, right? So communism is attractive. Why? Because it's basically telling the majority of people that the reason they aren't on top is because there's an international conspiracy of a few people. Maybe those people are bankers or lawyers. Maybe they're Jews. Maybe they're minorities. Maybe they're homosexuals. But whatever the case is, there is a conspiracy keeping you down. The reason you're not the senior vice president of Dell Computer, it's not because you spent your high school years smoking dope and tripping out on mescaline. It's not. That's not why it was. And it's not because you were so stoned, either you finished college very poorly or you didn't finish it at all. That has nothing to do with it either. No, it's because there's a small coterie of people keeping you down. It's exactly the same kind of bullshit that Hitler was telling his people, that Mao was telling his people, Stalin and Lenin were telling their people, Fidel was telling his people, and I guess the retarded brother is telling it in his place. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what it is. And so it's very attractive. No one wants to be told that their baby is ugly. But if your friends whose baby is ugly, if they're spending all the money to put the baby into a beauty contest, money that was going to be used for the child's education, I think it's your duty to tell them, my friends, your baby is fucking fugly. Please do not waste money on any kind of beauty pageants, etc.
If anything, invest in a mask.
Right. Well, forget the mask. Invest the money wisely in a safe place, not a strong place, but a safe place, so that when the child is 16, 17, you'll have enough money to send them to school, should they wish to go to higher education, or they'll have a little egg of money that they can use to go into business. Right? So they don't feel the need. If you waste the money on a child who's ugly, who cannot possibly win any beauty pageants, what kind of friend would you be to not tell them, dude, your baby's ugly? Right? But this is the problem.
My wife left her whole 401k savings plan to the grandchildren.
Yeah. How did that work out?
Well, the money's sitting there. When they grow up, they'll have it.
Yeah, for better or for worse. That's how it has to be. But to take that money now, to take it out, if the kid has one eye is 2 inches higher than the other, the nose is 3 directions, teeth going every which way, and then she wants to take the 401k money out now, get hit with the penalty just so she could put this freak-faced person into a beauty pageant, I think as someone's friend, it's your duty to tell them, this child is ugly. Please do not waste your money keep it invested in the 401k account, and let them use it in a way that actually will help them. Getting better education, helping them start their business. Maybe they have no interest in college, which I hope more and more people will lose this fascination with college. It doesn't mean anything anymore. If I could do it all over again, I would not have wasted that time in college. I would have started in business. Not that you can start in business right out of high school most of the time. You usually have to work. You go out and get a job, learn a little something about how business runs, and then you have that money waiting for you. So when you hit about 27, 28, 29, you know something. Maybe you know something about national trucking. Maybe you've learned something about dry cleaning. Maybe you've learned something about how to run a Walmart stock, how to keep stock, whatever. You can then do it, and you have something to launch yourself. That's a good thing. But to have it wasted because you think, you're going to be the next hot model when you look like, Tom Green, it's just ridiculous.
I can't wait.
And that's why and to go back, that is why communism is so attractive to so many people, because they are ugly and they can never win a beauty contest, right? I am old. I can never win a beauty contest now. I understand that. So I'm not trying to waste my time and energy and money on trying to be the next David Hasselhoff. I'm focusing on things that are achievable. And that requires you to have some sense of who you are, of an objective view of who you are, and lose as much of this false ego as possible, because that's your enemy. False ego, childishness, and envy are the main ingredients for communism and to make someone an adherent of totalitarianism. They're envious of people who have things that they don't have. And then communism comes in and actually tells them, the reason you don't have it, it's because of the Jews. Or maybe it's because of this group, the bankers. Or maybe it's the Republicans. The Republicans have kept you down. That's what they tell black folks in the inner city. The Republicans are keeping you down. And there's amazing videos on YouTube from the last election cycle of black people saying to these guys, there hasn't been a Republican in our government here for 70 years. How the hell can it be their fault? Right? This is what we call objectivity. It's not the Republicans running your city in Chicago. It's been Democrats for 80 years. So whatever problems you have, you can't blame them on the Republicans.
Politics is Hollywood for the ugly people.
Exactly. That's one of my favorite quotes, man. Yep. And it truly is. Remember all those assholes in high school who actually thought it was cool to run for the student government, but they were like the worst pieces of shit that you ever met in your life? That's exactly who's in Washington now. Those people.
I remember those days.
I never trusted any of them. Most of them were like the kind of guys that, given the right situation, would be pushing that button in the death camp chamber, killing people,
I remember when two guys in my class were running for student president as seniors. And the good guy lost and the idiot won.
It always works that way. Because the idiot has been spending, instead of going to people and talking to them, he's been working to undermine all the other candidates and make deals behind the back and under the table. That's how Washington is working, So, it is pretty disgusting. I don't know. I see this as being the vice president of a super PAC. It kind of fell out of the sky on me. I wasn't looking for it, but it's a great opportunity for me now to maybe do some damage to the people I consider the enemies of the Republic before they take me out. It's like while you still have the clearance, you can use it until they wise up and take away your clearance and you can't get access anymore. You can use it and maybe try to move the needle a little bit more toward freedom.
Yeah, we've been sitting here for the last 30 years taking all the bullshit.
Well, working people have been screwed. It's the only constant in the universe that I've seen politically, is that starting sometime in the 1990s, they just decided they didn't need working people anymore. And during the third or fourth year of the first term of Obama, his people were openly saying, we don't need the blue collar vote anymore. We've created this new coalition. That's how delusional these assholes were. Now they're scrambling when they see that Trump, all those people they'd thrown away, voted Trump. And they're absolutely apoplectic. They don't know what to do. It's like telling you have the most beautiful girl, in the office, and you're dating her, and then you get so full of yourself, you say, you know what, I don't need you. You do what you want. Then 2 days later, she's fucking the boss. She's not returning your calls, and she's fucking some other guy. And then you're sitting at home with your dick in your hand going, holy shit, I can't believe I was so stupid as to tell her, you do what you want. The correct answer is, I want to bring you out to dinner, like 3 times a week. I want to buy you some flowers and shit. You don't tell him, I don't need you, do what you want. And that's what the Democrats did with working people. And predictably, they started dating someone else. And now they're freaking out at home.
Yeah, well, you're making me a lot more optimistic than I've been in the last 8 months.
Well, I mean, we're going through a bad period. I mean, you have major voices in new media buying into this idea that Trump can't lose. I tell you, when it comes to these midterms, he can lose. And unless we step up to the fucking plate, he will lose. That doesn't mean it's the end of the Trump presidency or the end of the MAGA movement. It just means that it'll be another wake-up call that will rally us that, wait a second, it's not 12D chess. It's politics. And you have to fight. You have to fight for every inch. Now, the Democrats have handed us the gun issue. We should thank them for that. As they're going around saying they want to ban our guns and calling any NRA member a murderer, that's going to help us. We were like 15 points down in the generic. Once this gun stuff started, we're statistically in a dead heat. So it's been good for us.
What about the immigration problem?
There's only one solution, and we all know it. We all know what the solution is. The solution is we close up the border with a wall. We triple or quadruple ICE. And then I prefer the INS. We should make it the INS again when it still was badass. And then we make living here in this country so toxic for somebody who doesn't have the right paperwork in order, so oppressive that they flee. That is the solution. We all know that that's what the solution is. And Donald Trump, wink, wink, that's what he's going to do, or he's going to die trying. That wall is his presidency. He knows it. No wall, no second term, and history will not be kind to him.
We've got so many different things coming at us from all sides, like the Muslim problem.
Yeah, well, the problem with the Muslims is that society is not telling them. And it's not just the Muslims. If we go back, let's go back to the 70s. Okay? You're 66, so you remember the 70s. That whole movement to make the entire country bilingual. You remember that, man?
Yep.
That's where all this bullshit started. It started when we as a country started dithering that this isn't an English-speaking country. And once you stop making the demand of the new citizen to learn the language, to learn the history, and to try to blend in, once that was over, add a couple decades, the current problem is the Muslim problem. But really, it's the same problem. It's not just the Muslims. It's every person coming to this country is no longer being demanded by this host nation that he has to blend in, become part of the melting pot to become American. They're being told, keep speaking your native language, start demanding at the local level that your schools teach in Russian now. Why? Because the Spanish thing already, we lost that one. So they're teaching in Spanish and English. Why not add another million languages? We used to have men or women. Now we've got 58 different quote-unquote genders. If you give these people an inch, they take a mile. So the only way to contain it is we have to build a wall, and we have to make it socially toxic for somebody to behave in the way these people are behaving. They will flee. They will self-deport. So there's two components. There's one component the government can be involved in, building the wall and passing some legislation. But then it also means conservatives need to get into people's faces like they did in the 50s and 60s and say, fuck you. I'm not letting you do any more of this bullshit to the country, you fucking asshole. Whether it's this David Hogg guy doing the damage, whether it's Nancy Pelosi, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Michael Bloom turd. Whoever it is, we need to be willing in our places of work, in our family functions, on the street, people waiting online at the ATM. If they're talking horse shit, you have to call them out on it so that we as a group feel empowered again. We're not hiding like New York City gun owners, hiding, afraid to send the NRA $30 for fear that somehow their name on the NRA donor list will make it to the boss man at Smith Barney, and you will lose your job. This is the fear. I'm a gun instructor in New York City, and this is the fear of most of the gun owners in the city. They are so fearful that if it comes out they're gun owners, that they'll lose their job. And as long as that's the case, we've lost.
Glenn, how much time do you spend a day working on all this stuff?
Well, I'd probably say somewhere between 8 to 12 hours conservatively. Mainly because of the MAGA coalition stuff. If I wasn't doing the MAGA coalition stuff, I think it might be about 4 or 5 hours. It's actually enough. In the old days, I was doing a weekly podcast. And I could still work if necessary. I could do a consulting gig, 9 to 5, 9 to 6. And then on Sunday, I'd record my podcast and put it up. And that was very comfortable. It didn't impact my life at all. But now I'm doing a daily show, live streaming show for 2 hours. And so, there's prep to do that on top of all of the responsibilities for the MAGA coalition, which is a corporation. And it's my job to do all the paperwork, to run the lawyers, basically to keep the company functioning. While Adam Gingrich is the political end, he's doing all of the political machination. And then we've had another director, Brian Hassine, who's kind of like the spiritual center, we call him Mr. MAGA. And he's the one interfacing with the high-profile donors and all of that.
You have to do a lot of traveling?
Well, in my world, I'm doing a lot of traveling. I mean, you're talking to a guy who for 10 or 15 years rarely left his apartment unless it was to go to an office somewhere. I'm not like out and about, but every month or two I have to go somewhere, and you actually go to an airport. So it's like I feel like I'm 20 years old again. The other guys in the political pack are traveling constantly. But since my role is to keep the business running, I'm kind of like, it makes more sense that I'm behind my desk all day. Because there needs to be one person they can always get on the phone if it's the FEC or the lawyers or our bank or something,
If you're going to ever be in Pittsburgh, you're going to have to get together with me and War.
Oh, yeah. Well, Pittsburgh, I'm right now in Tyler Hill in Pennsylvania. So I'm in Honesdale. So we're about 3 or 4 hours, I think, from Pittsburgh, maybe 5. I can't remember. But we could do it. I know that Adam is around the Harrisburg area. So I'm sure we can work something out.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's good that you guys, it's good to know that there are people like you guys out there, because sometimes I despair, believe it or not, all these attacks, the constant lies that these people out there trying to destroy what we're doing. For instance, they call me now. They're saying that I am BLM. I'm a BLM person. This is what's going around Twitter right now. Me.
That's insane.
So I'm BLM. Amazing. I say, what is the chance that I am BLM or that they are Soros? I'm thinking it's much more likely they're Soros than I'm BLM.
I got back into social media just so, because of all this bullshit, and I regularly motherfuck all these elites.
That's what we need.
It's true.
Every time you tell them to go fuck themselves, we are 1 centimeter closer to our victory.
Yeah, I'm amazed that I haven't been. I've been shadow banned, but I haven't been, and I've been reprimanded, but I've not been banned from Twitter.
Well, it's coming. As you succeed, they will kill you off all their platforms. Once you hit, like when New Right Network gets their account deleted at 3 a.m. with no warning, that is the day that you celebrate that you actually won. That you actually reached the point where you were doing real damage to the other side because they took you down. As long as you're up, they haven't really noticed you. Once they've noticed you, they'll get rid of you.
Yeah, I only have like 1,000 followers, so I'm no big deal to them, I guess.
Yeah, but that changes pretty quick. You have 1,000 followers, then something happens. Now you have 10,000 followers. People start talking about you. Now you have 40 or 50,000 followers. And then you use, like I was saying, it's like you've been given access. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to try to build a following so you can have them buy shit? Buy t-shirts with your face on it so you can make some bread? Or are you going to use it to stick it up their ass and try to kill them?
That's where I'm at. I want to stick it up their ass. It comes out the other end.
Exactly. And so when they deplatformed me from Periscope, I was happy because I knew we must be doing something right. And so we're going to keep doing this thing until I actually said yesterday, if everybody deplatforms me, I will build my own fucking server in North Korea or Iran where the U.S. government and the social justice warriors can't touch me. And I will have a server. And the irony will be, it will be the only server preaching every day liberty, maximum responsibility, and see, it's not enough. Everyone wants maximum liberty. Everyone wants it. But it's maximum liberty coupled with maximum responsibility, right? It's the old, the adage of the gun owner. Yes, we should be able to have any gun we want, but we must be responsible. And if we're not, we must be willing to take the maximum penalty for our transgression, right? You can't be a gun owner and then decide to be an asshole with your guns and then go to the court and say, oh, you need to cut a deal for me. I want to avoid the penalty for me waving a 45 in a nursery school, right? And so this is the sickness. This is the sickness of the modern world, is that everyone wants everything for themselves. And if they fuck up, they think that they should be able to escape from the penalty as well. And then the whole society is now in the toilet, right?
Ain't that the truth?
And nobody wants to man up. You might lose your mind when you see your wife fucking the neighbor, and you may shoot both of them. That shit happens every day. But a real man will go to the judge and the jury and say, I saw that shit. Everything went black. I must have fucking killed them because when I gained my consciousness back, they were dead, and I was there holding a gun which was warm. And I'm not making any excuse for what I did. I'm just saying that I've limited my anger to my wife and the guy she was cheating on, and I take responsibility and I throw myself to the jury to determine what would happen to me. We need more of that, not people making excuses. Well, it wasn't right, and what they did was hurtful to me, and you can't expect me to keep my cool when I see that kind of thing, and it's not my fault, and I'm hiring this expensive attorney, and he's bringing in psychiatrist after psychiatrist saying that it's not my fault, because it's not my fault, and I should be let out because I've done nothing wrong. That's the antithesis of a healthy society, right? And I hate it.
What's crazy is if I was married to a supermodel and I caught her fucking the neighbor, I definitely wouldn't shoot him. I'm not putting my ass in jail for that shit.
Right. I mean, this has happened. All of us, whether you're a man or a woman, you've been cheated on. And if we're going to be totally honest, during a person's lifespan, you've probably cheated too. Right? And somehow or other, this is going on. And 98% of the time, no one gets killed. Relationships may die, but no one loses their life over that bullshit. But if you create a society catering to that 2% that are insane, that would shoot somebody over that, then what you're doing is you're keeping those people who should be in the system, they should be in a mental asylum, they should be in a prison, you're keeping them on the street to continue this bullshit, and eventually you have someone like Jerry Springer emerge from the turd bowl, making a TV show featuring this 2% of people, like it's comedy, and that's the end of society, basically, right?
Yeah, where will it end?
We know where it'll end. I've been there. It will end in a totalitarian state, where all our rights have been taken away. Why? Because we can't be trusted with them. We can't be trusted to be armed. We can't be trusted to have freedom of speech because we may say things that make other people unhappy. We can't be trusted to eat what we want to eat because we may make the wrong choices. And so it's for the good of society that we prevent you from being able to eat potato chips. Potato chips will be made illegal for the benefit of all. That's where we're headed. That's what they're doing right now. They're kicking people off YouTube because they do not believe this David Hogg. Anyone who says that David Hogg is a cock-sucking little piece of shit, you will lose your YouTube channel.
I say that every day on Twitter, right to him.
Right. It's only a matter of time, my friend.
I went on his Twitter page, and every one of them assholes that was on there got a load of me.
Good. Because that's what we need. We need every person that thinks like we do to be in their face 24/7. Only then can we chase them back, into the cave where they sprang, and put a boulder in front of that cave so they all can stay there masturbating together. I really don't care what they do, but we want to take them out of positions of authority, because if they stay in, they're going to take away, they're going to repeal the Bill of Rights without ever putting it to a vote, like they've done here in New York City. No vote has ever been done, but through legislation, they've been able to legislate away the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, I'm sure they have all my information, but I'm not on Facebook, and I won't let that motherfucker make any money from me.
Hey, War, you still there?
Yeah, what's up?
I was talking to the other guy. I'm not going to use his name over the clear channel here in case he doesn't want it being used. But there are many of us who were blocked from the New Right Network. And he told me that one of the people that was running the social media was a Your Voice America person. And so that they put a lot of my friends on the block list, including me. I was on your block list. So here's the thing, guys. Any of you who are trying to connect with New Right Network on Twitter who are blocked, please send me your Twitter account, and I will forward them as a single list to my friends here at New Right Network, and we'll correct it that way. Don't start bombing them with all these requests. Send them to me.
Absolutely. We'll definitely want that. All wrongs to be righted.
Yes. I mean, these things happen. I remember they were asking me, "Oh my God, we blocked you," and they were all the excuses. I was like, "Dude, shit happens. It's the internet, right? I mean, who knows why I was blocked?
I just popped back onto
Who cares?
Twitter, I just popped back onto Twitter, and the New Right Network is the first thing I saw.
Yeah. I mean, I've been watching the growth of New Right Network over the last 4 or 5 months. And it turns out, like everything else in conservative circles, there's always like 1 or 2 degrees of separation between all of us. So the founder of New Right Network is friends with somebody who's very prominent in the MAGA coalition. And that's how we got connected.
I'm following you on Twitter, so let me know if any of my tweets come through.
Well, if you followed me, I'll follow you. It's like that shampoo commercial from the 60s. Remember that? I tell 2 friends, then they tell 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. Then everyone's using the damn shampoo. I remember the days when I needed to buy shampoo. Seems like a lifetime ago.
You bald son of a bitch.
I don't need to go to the... I used to spend $100 in New York City in the 90s to get my, haircut. Oh, yeah. And that's been gone. I don't spend anything. Nothing. I get a little moisturizer. That's it. You get it at Walmart for like $1.99. Done. That's right, Terry. The punk Glenn. I was just interviewed by the New Right Network, and now we're just shooting the shit. That's exactly right. That's what's happening. Somebody's came into my room saying, "What's going on? What's happening here?"
What's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is MNN_MAGA News.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'll follow you too. I'm known as Trump Sci-Fi.
Trump Sci-Fi. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm Desperado TNR.
Desperado TMR.
N. The New Right. TNR.
Oh, Desperado TNR.
Right.
So everybody in the room now, go and follow both these guys. Trump Sci-Fi and Desperado TNR. Thomas Nancy Roger.
Yeah, Desperado's been around for a while. He's a great asset to the community.
It's always good to have people in the movement who are over 50, even better over 60, even better over 70, because they give the perspective that all of the people with energy, all the younger people who have a lot of energy, you need an older person to tell you where not to waste your energy, right?
Yeah, but they don't listen.
Of course not. Because when we were their age, did we fucking listen? No, we did not.
It all just happens again way down the line.
Well, once you hit about 40, once I hit about 40, then everyone that I was friends with that were my age, it became very fashionable to say, look at these goddamn kids. They're all doing this, they're doing that. They don't fucking listen. And I was reminding them, listen, when we were 18, 20, 24, weren't everybody who's 40, 50, 60 telling us exactly what you're trying to tell these kids? Did we fucking listen? When they said, don't waste your life going out to nightclubs and trying to get laid. Don't spend the weekends smoking weed or stealing beers and trying to get laid. You'll notice that my idea of being young is basically everything is geared toward getting laid, right? Why did I go to nightclubs? To meet girls. Why did I try to get a good job? To be more attractive to women, right? Once you hit middle age, that doesn't really matter so much anymore. I know it's incredible. When people were telling me that and I was 18, I couldn't imagine a world where everything I did was geared toward getting laid. But that's what it was. I remember it. I didn't listen. I wouldn't expect you to listen. And I think it's your right not to listen. Youth is meant to be wasted on the young. It's not wasted. It's your right. You'll look back on it as at least have energy. It's the best part of your life for going out and actually physically doing things. Because as you get older, the idea of jumping out of airplanes or bench pressing 350 pounds or riding around on motorcycles and doing wheelies and shit, it's just not going to happen. And if it does, you're going to end up in a hospital.
Well, here's the difference. The people my age that have kids, they grew up right. Ones today, they're not teaching them nothing. They're just, letting them do whatever they want.
Well, that's true. I mean, there were more. Society was still functioning when we were kids.
Yep.
The percentage of divorced people was maybe 5% tops. Now they say, I don't know if it's true, but they say it's 50%. So it's not a healthy, we don't have a healthy society right now.
I've been married for 46 years, and thank God both of my daughters turned out with brains.
Right. Well, having an intact family is key. It's giving and no one wants to hear this either, because since half the families are broken, they want everybody to toe the line and tell them, oh, there's no difference between your broken family and an intact one. That's like it's like me lying to some guy. There's no difference between my 8-inch cock and your 2-inch cock. It doesn't really matter. Of course it fucking matters. How can you lie to people like that shit? You wish you had an 8-inch cock. You don't have one. And I'm not going to bullshit you that your 2-inch little pencil bullshit is going to do the same job as my shit. Sorry. Just like I had a mother, I had a father, and they stayed together until they were dead. That's how it works, right? And that gave me certain advantages in the world. And I'm very happy and thankful that I had that. And so my thinking is, rather than lie to people that your broken marriage home, single mother, single father home is equal to both parents, which is not true, that we should work hard to produce a result where almost everybody can have a mother and father. That should be the goal, not bullshitting people that your 1-inch micro penis is going to do the job, because it's not.
Yeah, I really think the breakdown of the family unit is both a cause and a goal of cultural Marxism.
Well, it's been stated. Back in the 1920s and 30s, they wrote this shit down. They wrote it down, the goals of the Communist Party. And I think number 1 or 2 was the destruction of the family, starting with the extended family. Forget the nuclear family. I'm advocating a return to the extended family, where the grandparents, the parents, the children, and maybe even the grandchildren are all living within close proximity to each other. That is the standard human condition from the time of the Bible to today. I think we've been robbed of that. I think we're so low on the ground now that we actually think just having a mother and father, that's the ideal. No, that's not the ideal. Better that you have the grandparents also. You need that older generation so that there's some idea in the child's mind that mom and dad are like everything, but somewhere up there is grandmother and grandfather that even mom and dad defer to. That way you produce a well-rounded individual, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think that when the family isn't there for an individual, essentially the state becomes the family, and that's of course what communists want. They want children raised by the state. They want the elderly presumably euthanized by the state, and every step in between. It's all control.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing now with women, they were sold this bad bill of goods called feminism. And feminism produced a result. And the result was that men now can have sex with them without the expectation of marriage. So my generation, the generation before mine, could run through dozens of women, maybe hundreds of women. Not that I did. I was never that successful. But, I knew guys who ran through 50, 60 women, sometimes in a single year, just banging them out. And the women were so full of shit. Their head was so in the clouds that they believed that letting men use them was actually somehow pro-woman, that this is some feminist ideal. It's actually degraded. It's degraded behavior, right? And so the glory of a woman or a man is not to behave like a lower animal. That's the fact. If you continue to behave like a lower animal, like a dog or a cat or a pigeon, just fornicating wherever, you destroy your own nest. The stink of your own nest, which you've now fouled, will smell up the neighborhood, and that neighborhood will then be considered the toilet of the state that you live in, and everyone will despise you. They will despise you. That's the real world. The feminists complain that, I had sex with 30 guys and people call me a whore. And guys can have sex with 50 women and they don't call him a whore. No, they call him a fucking piece of shit is what they call him. Even amongst guys, if you've been drinking and you're telling these stories, it's all a lot of fun. But the idea of banging 50 chicks, there's something about it that's just unclean. Society will be in a much better shape if we all can start taking responsibility, at least in public. You can be a mess once the front door is closed, but in public, at least pretend that you're not a scumbag.
All right,
Best I can
real,
tell.
Real talk here. Real talk, Glenn. Who was the craziest chick you ever hooked up with? The wildest, sluttiest chick in your life?
Where do I start? I mean, I exclusively pursued only mentally ill women for a lot of my life because they're the best. Because they're the best in bed.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
that insane
Everybody knows that.
mojo. Everybody knows that. I'm glad that you're saying that. I don't think everybody knows it, dude. Only sick fucks like us know it. Most people know better than to be involved with crazy women or men, right? But I'll tell you that in my life, I've had women try to stab me, hit me with various objects, screaming, I've been all of those things. There was one woman I knew in Boston who I met her at a nightclub, and then she proceeded to in front of me, she pulls out this bag of cocaine and starts doing bumps right off her own arm, and then screaming like a madwoman, and then running at two cops in Boston at around midnight saying, "I'm going to fucking kill you." Right? And so, being that I had some concern for her safety, I tried to restrain her. This is, I can't believe I'm telling this story, but all right, here we go. I tried to restrain her so she wouldn't accost the police officers. They would then discover the cocaine And she was also a foreign exchange student. Super hot. Super hot.
What country was she from?
She was from France. I didn't want her to be locked up. I wanted her back in my apartment later in the morning, right? That was my plan. So I was holding her back and trying to say in a very steady voice, you got to calm down, right? Calm down. You don't want to attack the police, etc. And then these two lesbians driving an old Volkswagen Bug. The year, by the way, is 1986, if you want to take the time machine.
All right.
We're in Boston, across the street from the Boston Stadium. I can't remember the name of the street right now. Lansdowne. I think it's Lansdowne Street. And there was a club at that time called Spit. It was later changed to something else. It still exists, but it's now like some hipster bullshit. And so these two lesbians, giant bull dyke lesbians, get out of this tiny little VW Bug, right? You can imagine this. And they come out, what are you doing to that woman? Stop. You're a rapist. Like all this bullshit. All this fucking bullshit. And so she escaped and runs toward the cops. And I calmly turned to the lesbians and I said, now you fucking done it. I go, do you realize that this woman is high on drugs? I've seen that she possesses cocaine. And she now is going to attack those two. See, she's running to that police officer. She's going to punch him. And she's going to get arrested. And this is where your feminism has brought her. And the two dykes got back in their car. Tiny little car, giant-ass women, and drove away. And to me, this is the prime example of how liberalism destroys everything.
And
everything.
What happened? What happened to the exchange student?
Well, they apprehended her. They handcuffed her. Then they took the cuffs off. I guess in all of her, insanity, she dropped the bag of cocaine somewhere on the street. So even though she was intoxicated on something, they couldn't find any drugs on her. And so she was released. It took it killed the whole evening.
Well, did you get
and
her
I
back
never
to your
did have
apartment?
sex with her. I never had sex with her. No, because she blamed me. Of course, she blamed me for not holding her tight enough. I was the bad guy because she was kicking me in the balls and these two lesbos come out of their tiny little car and she escapes from me, but it's my fault. You see, it was my fault. So when these assholes like Brendan Dilley and all these other assholes coming after me, making up lies, keep in mind, I've had a full and rich life of people talking shit. I can take it. But there did come the day when I stopped dating crazy people. Men and women both have that day of reckoning where you can't sleep with one eye open. You can't do that for 40 years. You just never get proper sleep. You'll start hallucinating.
And my wife came after me with a bat one time.
There you go.
Wait. Oh my God, this story is crazy enough. Your wife, your own wife, came to you with a bat.
That's
How
nothing.
did this happen?
My ex-wife tried to stab me with a kitchen knife.
Oh, let's just make this story night, okay? But first, as the Boston delegation, I gotta say she was the former mayor of Boston. Okay, no, that's a joke. Nobody will get it. But
yeah, what are you? What?
Because I'm the mayor of Boston right now. Because I said so. Fuck it. Anyways, let's just tell story night. Come on.
All right, so just FYI, I think we are still streaming on Glenn's podcast.
Yes, you are.
Or his show.
So don't say anything that could identify you in the real world.
Or anything self-incriminating. Don't say that you sent cyanide to the president like that dumbass on Twitter.
Right. Unless, of course, you're in London, where you can say it with impunity. But if you're in America, don't say anything like that.
Oh, he's walking back on it now. After he was talking about the receipt for the package, but now it sounds like he's starting to walk back. I think maybe he's starting to sweat a little bit.
Yeah, because all the White House has to do is send a formal request from the Justice Department to the British government to find out if it's a credible threat. And the next thing he knows, he's got some detectives at his door asking him uncomfortable questions. And in England, where they really have destroyed the individual rights of the person, you can be destroyed. You saw that there's a guy who took a video of his dog watching Hitler on TV.
We all know the Count Dankula story, that's for sure.
Right, he's going to go to jail for a year, most likely. Jeez. Think about it. This is what they have in store for us. This is what we would be enjoying had Hitler won.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's the fact. People ask me, they say, is it absolutely essential that you use so much profanity on your shows? I say, no, it's not. But it's absolutely essential that everybody supports my right to do it. Otherwise, you're going to end up like that Count Dankula, or whatever the fuck his name is. You're going to go to prison for a year, because you made a joke that's politically insensitive.
Yeah, political correctness gone amok.
Yeah, well, what was definitely interesting is there was another instance in which someone mailed cyanide to the White House, and there were never any arrests made in that case.
Well, maybe because the guy who mailed it worked for Jim, for Comey or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe he just didn't go on Twitter and admit to it.
Yeah, I mean, you had that whole thing, if you recall, after 9/11, like 2 or 3 days later, there was all of this anthrax being mailed everywhere.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so the Mueller he mishandled that. He also mishandled the Atlanta Olympic bombing, destroying that guy Richard Jewell's life, who was just some fat dude who lived with his mom, whose best job in the world was working at the stadium as some low-level square badge security guy. But they destroyed his life. Bob Mueller destroyed him. And these are the things, who is sending poison through the mail? What is the chance that it's, some regular person on the street? It always ends up being someone that the FBI knew about, but they refuse to take action. Every time. So I guess we're at that point now where they don't even bother to discuss in public who the people are, because they just know it'll make them look bad. I'm still waiting for some kind of discussion about this Las Vegas incident. But that's not forthcoming. And I suspect it will never be forthcoming.
Yeah,
it will take 100 years before this shit is declassified. And then the historians will all agree that from the year 1960 to maybe 2060 or 2080 will be considered the most lawless period in world history. And that's what they will teach in schools. But for now, we just have to eat the static of our betters who refuse to tell us anything. Because guess what? We can't be trusted with the truth. We can't be trusted with guns. We can't be trusted with drugs. We can't be trusted with the truth. We're like little children wearing a diaper, eating tofuti, and we're all virgins. That's how they see us. 40-year-old in a diaper.
Yeah.
Looks like I have a new friend on this Discord. So Discord, if I'm not wrong, started out as a way for gamers to connect, right, while they're playing games?
Correct. It started as an alternative to Skype.
Yes, because why waste your time with Skype, which 90% of it is their crappy video codec, when you can just get down to the business here? Who cares if I'm playing one of those one of the newer games, the multiplayer games, even like Call of Duty, you play it in the multiplayer mode. I don't care about looking at the guy talking to me because I'm not going to be looking at him. I'll be looking at the game. All you need is the audio.
Yeah, I do think Discord has started to implement video chat. I know we've done some testing with it. I mean, it still seems like it's a pretty lightweight application, though, at least in comparison to Skype, because Skype, once it got bought out by Microsoft, just bloatware up the ass.
Oh, yeah. Bloatware, that was the old days. I remember, like, Microsoft Word, circa 1992. That was bloat. But then sometime around the 2000, it moved into shitware, you know?
Yeah, I get real animated when it comes to Microsoft Word and the Office suite. You can't tell me that there's been any significant change in word processing technology to warrant an upgrade every 2 years. There can't be. Get out of here, Microsoft. Quit
it's weirder
trying
than
to
that.
sell me software as a service.
See, because I'm so old, I remember when Microsoft Word was a good product. And guess what it did? All it did was word processing. But the bad days started sometime in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when Microsoft, that's what we used to call it back in the 80s, when Microsoft decided that a word processor should also be able to make web pages. And there should be a talking paperclip too, called Bob. And maybe your word processor also, can be Excel, and it can also be PowerPoint, and it can also blow you, and it can do all these different things. And so it went from about 4 megabytes in size, and I believe Microsoft Word now is somewhere in the 60 or 80 megabyte range. It's almost a gig.
Oh,
it's incredible.
Insane, absurd, and just the system resources it takes. It takes, 35 seconds to a minute to launch that. Why? I just want to type up a document. All I want to do is type.
That's why.
You sons of bitches. I just want to type up my grocery list.
Yeah, it's a gigabyte. It's huge. Listen, I used to have an Apple II Plus in 1980, 81, 82. And we had a word processor called Word Handler. And the entire computer had 16K, 16 kilobytes of RAM. Not 16 megs, not 16 gigs, 16K. And I'm telling you, that word processor worked just as well as anything we're using now. It also had a giant-ass dictionary for spell check, and it did what it had to do. And I can honestly tell you that when you have a gigabyte-sized Microsoft Word, it's not better. It just has more bullshit that you will never use. And you're right, every 2 years they make you buy it again.
Yeah, it's garbage. I want to buy a product and own it.
My grandfather bought the first TV in our family sometime in the early 1960s. I still can see it in my mind. It was all metal. There was no plastic. The only plastic on it was the on-off knob, which was a metal stalk with a little plastic tip that they put on there. Otherwise, it was all metal. It weighed like 30 pounds, right? And that TV was still working well into the 2000s. You go now down to Walmart, you get a 4K TV for $400, but within 5 or 6 years, it's junk.
Was that an American-made TV before everything?
It was a Zenith Made in the USA, black and white.
That was
The
before.
second TV my family bought was in 1971. It was a color TV. It was the first color TV that anyone in the family had owned, and it was made by RCA, another American company. And that TV lasted well into the 1990s.
I have a Zenith color TV right now that's like 35, 40 years old, and it works good.
Hey,
Still
Glenn,
looks
good to
good.
talk to you. Glenn, are we broadcasting right now on your Periscope?
We are.
I hope we are. I'm glad. Let me address a couple things. One, we do AMAs every night, and me and Glenn, me and you have talked very friendly in the past, and we have no issue at all. There is a blockage issue, which I will take care of. That's going to take some time, guys. So if you guys know and you want to be unblocked by the New Right Network, the reason being is I did subscribe to a block service. I was very new to Twitter even 10 months ago, and it was 33,000 people long, and some of you guys are blocked. If that's an issue, please get a hold of us. I will gladly unblock you.
What I've asked my audience to do is to DM me, and I'll send you a single list from time to time. That way, it's not going to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not making it overwhelming. Thank you. Another thing I want to say to all the boo birds out there, because we've gotten threats and things like this from various organizations, and some of them we are friendly with, some we're not. The thing I want to say is the reason they call it an AMA, it means ask me anything. It's not our fault that you didn't come and ask Glenn the questions that you wanted asked. It could have been any question. And so if people want to respond to that, we do these AMAs every day. Also, I do want to emphatically say this. Us at the New Right Network will not cower to any harassment or whatever. We will talk and AMA with everybody. I have offered AMAs to all kinds of people. And we will talk and we will conduct our business as we want to, and we will not go to anybody's agenda. Nobody's writing us checks. We are all volunteers, and we do this out of the goodness of our hearts because we want to change America. And so,
Exactly.
absolutely, if you ask me, am I friends with Glenn? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deflect the question. And honestly, if you guys want to be a part of an AMA and maybe say your viewpoint, then email at newrightnetwork@gmail.com. We'd be happy to take that and start to cut into your guys' conversation because it's really pretty good. I'm not trying to hijack your Periscope, by the way.
No, that's good. I mean,
No, let's hear some more
I
ads,
don't-
Ryan.
No, we
I
are.
never
No,
cared.
I'm a walking billboard. Absolutely. I'm newrightnetwork.com. I mean, that's what's up. Yeah, and if you guys are trying
as
to
well
find
you
me on
should
Google
be.
right now, trying to dox me, yeah, my name is Ryan Ash. You can find me on Medium. And
A lot of my
save you guys
enemies,
time out there.
a lot of the enemies of me and MAGA Coalition, their MO is to dox all of our followers and to
I am
harass.
doxed. My name is Ryan Ash, RYAN. My last name's Ash, ASHE.
Yeah, but what I find ironic.
I'm self-employed. I'm not stupid enough to fire myself. I'm fine.
Yeah, well, it's just the way it is now. I mean, because I'm older, it never occurred to me back in like 1998, 99 to be someone else online other than myself, right?
Hey, you know what? I'm not calling you an old man, but can I take advantage of your Periscope for half a second?
Sure. It's Vimeo.
I'm going to beg myself. I'm going to beg myself. I'm going to beg you. We have please join us on Facebook. My good friend here, Dobie, saying to ask to do that because she thinks we're going to give a good response. We have underrepresentation. Everyone hates Facebook. It's a big liberal, bee's nest or whatever. But guys, we need your help there, and that's it. MAGA Coalition with Adam. I would like to get Adam on here if we could. Again, we've had several of your voice. I know you guys have had certain issues. Publicly, we definitely don't take sides on anything like that. And but at the same time, we're not going to stymie your voice when you are our guest. I've gotten some very nasty threats in the last 30 minutes, which I'm very surprised by. This is the first guest I've ever had. I've had Cernovich. I mean, Cernovich is one of our moderators on the subreddit. I don't hide that. A lot of people. This is the only time I've ever gotten this kind of vehement kind of hatred was this particular AMA. 100%.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I was on for 2 hours, basically. Did I say anything that you think would warrant that kind of response?
We did call that one candidate a cocksucker. I mean,
no, I don't.
Have.
No, you call me. You mean no? I mean,
I said that I called
Glenn. If you were to get on your Glenn, I know you would never do this, but I don't think you would. But if you went on your Periscope tomorrow and you referred to me as a cocksucker, an asshole, a piece of shit, and all that, personally, just me, you said, hey, you know what? I think Ryan Ash is a cocksucking piece of shit. Honestly, it's one Periscope. I don't care. I'll be like, okay, well, that happened.
Well, the thing is,
I was very surprised.
If I was going to do that, I would first do it to your face.
No, you would. No. Well, I mean, you're a man like that. Yeah, I would do the same to you. I mean, I am. I'm that way.
I would call you and say, "This is the problem I have. What do you have to say?" And if you,
which again, to your people, it's true. You do have my phone number. You literally could call me. We were literally texting. Right. Yes.
And in the case of Brendan Dilley, I initially came out for him.
I really
this is
don't
something
know
that nobody wants to talk about. Right? I originally supported him. But then, as I learned more and more about him and his fake campaign, that's when the problem started for me.
Right. Well, you guys are much more entwined organizationally, in the past. I want to say business-wise, because I don't know if that's PAC-wise, but I mean, like when you were in I think you were with Bill the night of the election, I think, right?
No.
I mean, you guys used to be pretty close, right?
No.
That may be incorrect. I mean, is it?
I mean, look, I was being told that I was going to be the CTO or the CIO of Your Voice America. That was the discussion that I was having with Ann Vandersteel and Bill Mitchell.
Well, I knew you guys knew each other back then, and I knew there was like discussion of you guys doing something in camaraderie and things like that. But
in all fairness to Your Voice America, and even though I think they are a bunch of assholes, I think that everyone deserves to have some level of fairness. So, in fairness,
I agree.
To them,
we're little guys. We just don't know him, Glenn. That's what I was saying. But I mean, you guys.
I'm just saying from my perspective.
We've had them.
Not
we've had them on
perspective.
AMAs. No, I know. We've invited them on.
You could dig up Adolf Hitler's bone and clone him and put him on your show, and I would probably listen to it. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I have no problem with you having Brendan Dilley on. None of my business, right?
We already did, right? Who gives a shit? That's what I'm saying.
It's none of my business, right? I even tell my own audience, if you want to go listen to Your Voice America, feel free. This is not the Soviet Union. But if you're here and you ask me about it, I'm going to say I think they suck.
Hold on. Huh? There's a dynamic there that I think's wrong because the whole thing, not by you, what you're saying, the thing is, it's an AMA. And the AMA idea is, it's not like, we're not endorsing or promoting anything. What we're saying is, AMA, ask them anything. It's not called a lick your balls. This is if somebody doesn't want to ask them questions. We can only come up with the questions that the crowd asks. So if somebody wanted to come in and say something, let's say, well, we do moderate, we don't take, knuckleheads. But at the same time, if somebody wants to come through and they want to ask a more, I don't know, kind of hold you to the ground kind of question, we'll ask that. We've had a lot of guests do that, in stride. That's exactly what an AMA is supposed to be. And, it's not my fault that people don't come here to New Right Network and check the calendar and check out our great list of AMAs, Glenn.
I understand. I just think that we're at that weird point where everything is false. So the idea is, if we're going to have my guy come on your show, here's the list of questions you can ask. But please,
we don't do that. We don't do that.
Yeah, you may not do it, but everyone else is doing like that.
We don't do it. It's the crowd. It's we treat all our guests with respect. And to be honest, I mean, like you're talking right now, and I'm talking. You're giving me the privilege of talking on your Periscope. No, I mean it's 100%. It's almost thought policing, and there's certain groups out there that I think that certain members are still okay, but I mean the whole group is maybe a little more geared towards maybe heavy-handedness, if you want to use a light term.
Let me give you an example,
pushing,
a real world
Sure,
example that happened to me.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if somebody comes into my Periscope when I still was on Periscope and starts running down my organization, lying about the president of our organization, lying about what they said, and this actually happened. Some woman came in, she started lying, and live on the show, I was able to show to the entire audience that what she was saying was a lie. I showed an actual Periscope where she was making statements that in the room now she was denying she ever made. And I told this woman, go fuck yourself. Now that was my first Periscope. Sure. My first Periscope. I came in with a bang. And everyone loved it. Ann Vandersteel loved it. All those people at YVA thought it was the greatest thing they ever saw. But then when they didn't love me anymore, when I took Adam's side, their little social justice warrior troll army started saying Glenn and MAGA Coalition abuses women. You see?
It's kind of funny because, well, Glenn, it's kind of funny because me and War of the Fanboys, which is here, we came from a place on Reddit called The Donald. And
I
we
know
were
it.
very close.
I used to hang out there during the election.
And things like that. Right. So, I mean, like internet trolls to us, I mean, that's a dime a dozen. I mean, we'll go after them like crazy. Mimetic warfare is true.
Yet you've just told me that in all the AMAs you've done, you've never seen this level of vitriol.
Never, not on this level. I mean, I will say that on Trump's, which we did at the Donald in July 2016, on July 29th, we did see a lot of it. We did see a lot at the Donald again on Tucker Carlson. I want to be correct, and there's reason I'm saying this, Glenn, is because other than that, no, we've interviewed. We actually had Mike Cernovich. He's again moderator. We've had Joe Biggs. We've had some of these people that are somewhat well known. Let me see who else. Laura Loomer. We go down the gambit. Across the entire plane of it. And no, I have not. And this is the first time I've ever seen this kind of vitriol hatred towards a guest. And
there it is,
pointed towards us.
Right. And so you asked me to endorse candidates. How can I endorse candidates when this is what
I didn't ask you to do any of that. I didn't ask you to
do that. Well, no, I'm not saying you personally, but during the AMA, one of the questions was, could I tell some candidates to the audience that I'm endorsing? Right. Now you understand why I'm not going to do it.
Well, I understood that, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I want to make sure that, again, I'm glad I hop in and hop out. I always let War and I'd like the community to, be there. Yeah, we just won't cower, and we're glad to have you as a guest. Thank you very much for your time. And if anybody doesn't like it, they had their opportunity to ask you a question. They didn't do it.
Well, they've already asked their questions, and I've already given the answers. And their rectum, collectively, they're all bleeding. And so they're literally, if not figuratively, butthurt. And you can see they can't come out openly and deal with me on a philosophical point by point. What they do is they hide with this social justice warrior stuff, right? If a man comes to me and says I'm a liar, and I say, fuck you, does that make me an abuser of men? If a woman comes to me and lies, and I prove they're liars, and I tell them to go fuck themselves, am I really an abuser of women in the pluralistic sense? Or am I an abuser of a single person who happens to be female, who happens to be a degenerate liar? And you see, within that nuance is the world I'm living in, and fighting in, and winning in. And fuck them all. I will fuck them up their asses day after day. I am waking up every day 1 hour earlier just so I can have some butt sex with the world and all of my enemies. That is all.
I love it. I love it.
I love it. I will say this. I'm gonna hop off here, but I'm glad that you are doing this tonight. Let me say something to all the people that don't like this. Guys, get a life. If you don't like him, get an AMA with us. We'll do the same thing. Honestly,
Why don't you
to all
have a
kinds
few
of
of a few of my friends on your AMA? We've got some great patriots here. That would be very
Why
interesting.
wouldn't-
I'll try to get
again,
Adam to do
Glenn,
it.
Glenn, I've offered Adam. I talked to Adam 3 weeks ago and asked him to do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
so they
Well,
don't
good
like
luck
it.
getting Adam to do anything.
That may
Right,
be
that's
true.
what I'm here for, and that's what Brian
But
is here
no, and
for.
I've offered Bill. I mean, I've offered. I don't do this. I mean, if it's an AMA, we treat all our guests. I mean, this is not an anti Your Voice America podcast. I mean, not well, yours maybe, but I mean, mine is. The bottom line is, we do this for all of our guests. I was just amazed by the backlash that I received. I was astounded.
Because it's coordinated. And Vandersteel is coordinating all of this. And that's why you've seen it. Anywhere I go, there is a coordinated effort.
Is she going to come
besmirch
after me
me.
next?
Yes,
Oh,
you
that
fucked up.
bitch. God damn it.
You have fucked up.
Well,
All you and your
I
little
I have Ann in
friends.
for
front of her.
this
I mean, I would offer Ann an AMA because again, I mean,
You should
ask him anything.
have 0 Hour and his girlfriend Meggie. Have them on
Who?
too. Oh, you'll find
0
out who
Hour?
these people are. They're going to be coming after you, probably. We'll see. Let me
Yeah,
give you
you
an
know what?
idea.
You know what, guys?
Wait, hold on a
Come
second.
here.
Let me give you an idea of the shit that I have to deal with. So there are these people who've been attacking the MAGA coalition and spreading falsity and slander to the point where it's now affected our ability to do business. Properly, we have gotten a law firm involved and we're going to sue them. Okay. The first letter went out.
Hold on, Glenn. In a legal way?
Yes. In a legal way.
Okay.
In the
It's
real
that
world.
bad.
In the
okay.
real world, motherfucker. They got a letter, and soon they're going to get deposed in a lawsuit. Now, check this out. So that's going on. The very person that we believe, and we're going to have to prove in court at some point, that Vandersteel and Co. hired, or at least asked as a favor to come at us. This person, as soon as the letter arrived, the cease and desist letter, do you know what they did? They looked up who this lawyer was in the masthead on the letter and started a cyberbullying campaign against him on Twitter. This is who we're dealing with.
It sounds like a
Their
bunch of little
nature
bitches, to be honest.
Is cyber stalking, cyber harassment. They
Well,
harassed
Glenn, I talked
me.
to Ann a little bit. I mean, she seems to be pretty nice. I just don't know her. Maybe like you know. Do you know anything about her? I
Everybody
mean,
is
like, she seems
nice,
to be
my
okay.
friend. Everyone is nice. I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to tell you. When I was 21 years old, my father's friend, who was a soldier in Algeria, he was French. I once made a statement like that. I said, but they seem so nice. And he looked at me with the cigarette dangling out of his mouth. He said, everyone is fucking nice. Everyone is nice. That's not the point. The point is that nice people can do evil, fucked up things. And I'm calling them out in court. And we're going to drag these little assholes from the fake world of Twitter into a goddamn courtroom. And they're going to have to defend their actions.
What are we getting in the court for? What are we getting in the court for?
Why? You're asking me?
Yes.
Tortious interference with conducting business, slander, willful misrepresentation of us as individuals as well as our company. I don't want to go into all the details here, right? But it's some serious charges and ones that I believe we have a very strong case. It's not going to be a easily dismissed thing. and we're gonna get these people. We're gonna shut them down because it's enough is enough. You've seen what they're doing. I just try to appear here, have a nice little conversation.
We were just talking. I agree with that. Just talking.
So we're going to shut them down. And every day they're making threats against me. They're plotting in what they think are secret little DM rooms where they want to all mass report me to the FBI. There's a conspiracy afoot to try to get me jammed up with the feds by making
FBI?
up lies. Yes, with the fucking FBI.
That seems
Hello.
crazy. I mean, that seems crazy. The FBI, I mean, that seems like that's a big statement. Jesus.
But that's what they're doing. They're reporting me to the FBI. I'm just curious what it is exactly I've done. Made fun of a fake congressional candidate, Brendan Dilley? How do you exactly report that crime to the FBI? I wonder. I've never made a physical threat to anybody. I own a lot of firearms because I'm a firearms instructor. I've never shown my firearms regularly. It's never like something I'm showing on any of my periscopes. I've answered people's questions about firearms, but I'm not waving guns around. I'm a pretty boring guy. I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm not involved in anything exciting other than this MAGA coalition. And before I got involved with MAGA coalition, nobody gave a shit about me, one way or the other. But that's what we're talking about. We're going to drag these motherfuckers into the light, and they're going to have to answer for what they've done. All of it. Did you know I was receiving death threats? People waving guns, pointing them at the periscope screen, and naming me by name. Naming me by name that they were going to take me out. So, when it starts happening to you, feel free to call me.
I'm from the Midwest. We take that very seriously.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to be
in a
from
much
the
more
Midwest
serious
to
manner
take
than
that
I'm going to
seriously.
say. I'm just saying a much more serious manner than I would allow myself to say, I'm here.
As would I. But I did do a periscope mocking that person because he's a fucking cum bucket. Making those kind of threats, physical threats, over an open channel. One that I can download and keep in file folders, edit down, make a CD or DVD and hand it to the feds, which I did.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Because, I wasn't going to hop on here at all and talk tonight because I normally let, War and, the group talk to everybody because I talk to you, sometimes. And, but the threat thing kind of got to me. And I'm like, well, if you guys want to come for us, I don't know. I've seen mimetic warfare and I've seen a lot of things go down online. I don't know if threatening us is the best avenue.
It's all they've got.
Box those motherfuckers.
It's all they've got. When the moronic, sub-intellectual types, when they realize they're outmatched philosophically, then all that's left is physical threats. Historically, this is the fact. From the first human beings to the present day. That will never change. And so you have to ask yourself, how much do you give a shit about this? How much is it important to you? Is it important enough that you may have to sleep with a firearm next to your bed because you've had threats made against you that 50 guys on motorcycles are coming to murder you while you're sleeping? How much is this freedom of speech worth to you?
Whoever made the threat that 50 guys on motorcycles are coming to murder me has watched too much Tokyo Drift. That's not the way that would ever happen. But sleeping with a firearm, absolutely, I do it every night. And guess what? No one's ever gotten hurt and everyone's gotten injured because
what I'm saying is when they start coming for your girlfriend or your wife, your parents, they start doxing your parents and making death threats. There are people in my group whose mother, an older woman who may or may not have some early dementia, is being physically threatened that we know They're actually writing to this lady, "You fucking cunt. We know where your mother is. Shut your fucking mouth or she's going to get it." This is the world that I've entered into, this political cesspool. I was a corporate guy. I thought I knew what hardball was. I was wrong. I was wrong. But I'm a quick study, as Adam Gingrich says. The reason they hate me is because I beat them. I beat them, and they can't stand it. They're little dilly dildo. Fucking Brendan Dilly. Kiss my ass, Brendan Dilly, you fake ass motherfucker. You're just a liar, like the rest of your friends. You threaten the libtards that you will, quote, shoot them. This is not a threat. This is a fact. Or rather, this is a promise.
I felt bad for Brendan, actually, whenever his Twitter was taken down. I did. He had like 100.
I did too. I'm against
I actually
it.
did, man.
I'm against having your Twitter voice silenced because you say something that's quote unquote controversial to the libturds. And that's what it is. He didn't really say, "I'm going to shoot you," in context of where law enforcement has a credible case. For instance, if I hate you and I know where you live, and you know that I'm armed, if I call you and say, "I know you were fucking my wife, I'm going to fucking kill you," that's enough for law enforcement to get involved, especially if we live close to each other, right? But to make some oblique statement online, "If you try to take my guns," which, by the way, right by saying "if you try to take my guns," to me, it negates any charge that it's a real threat. It's now a postulation, right? In this, there's a universe where someone is trying to take my guns. Then in that world, I will shoot you. I think that's legitimate. That would be self-defense, wouldn't it? I mean,
no, I think it would be self-defense. I mean, it's defense of your own rights. Therefore, your person, according to the law. That's elements of the law, definitely.
But it doesn't matter. The fact that I make these points, the fact that I say I'm against Brendan Dilly losing his shit, I wasn't laughing when he lost his account, but I was pissed off when he lied that I was somehow behind it. That's what gets me. They hate me so much.
That. Right. I didn't see that, but I mean, I'm busy all the time, like yourself.
Well, whatever. This is the shit that I put up with. And so then the temptation is to take credit for it. And I'll tell you why. Because if I take credit for it, I become an even bigger monster in my enemies' minds. They will think
why does this 0 Hour person despise you so much? I mean, like, I know here's what I know about 0 Hour. He's like an internet, I mean, he's kind of a MAGA guy, and then, but you guys seem to have like this huge issue, I guess.
He's not a MAGA guy. He's a troll. He's a troll for hire.
Troll? Oh, well,
he uses the internet as a method to raise money through PayPal so he doesn't have to work.
He says a lot of MAGA things online, right?
So what?
He had prayer, I saw, a couple Sundays ago, and then he's doing, the MAGA thing. Is that not the way he is? I don't know.
So when Jimmy Swaggart was doing those shows about Christianity, he was doing those shows. Therefore, your argument is he's doing the show, he's making some show, therefore it must be real. Right? I reject
but I mean,
that.
he's got a lot of people that listen to him. You know what I mean? And
so did Jimmy Swaggart.
Right, but I mean,
so what?
But you're saying he's attacking, and so in what fashion is he really attacking?
In what fashion is he attacking?
Yeah.
Let's see where to begin. He was working on our treasurer, telling him that if the treasurer didn't step down, that he was going to go to jail or something like this, that he's going to be in big trouble. The treasurer then stepped down, and then on tape, we have recordings of them, of Meg and Zero laughing, that once they got the treasurer to step down, they contacted Seb Gorka and told Seb Gorka that the treasurer left because of the illegal activities going on, which there were no illegal activities. They were claiming that millions of dollars had been stolen by us, right? And so Seb Gorka then left. Seb Gorka then quit. And they think this is funny. They're laughing on their periscopes, which reside on my hard drive, waiting for the lawsuit, taking credit what they did to conspire with a combination of intimidation and lies to harm the MAGA coalition. And
so
we will be
anyone
seeing them in
listening
court.
that maybe not. So Glenn, so anybody maybe not familiar with him, maybe listening to us for the first time. So you're saying that it's not a great guy. Maybe he's got his own agenda. I'm not accusing him. I don't know, but I mean, he's attacked you, so obviously there's something there, right?
I mean, look, all I can say is that I have 6 months of periscopes detailing this issue.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's if people are really interested in the 0 hour Ann Vandersteel, John Kruger history with MAGA Coalition,
Who's John
then
Kruger?
they can go to maganews.net and check out my old shows. For now, we will be seeing these individuals in the court of law, one step at a time. We're going to start with 0 and move outwards. And we're going to prove that there was a conspiracy to harm our super PAC and to continue to harm our super PAC, the proof of which you're seeing in your comments today. This is a coordinated effort.
Yeah, definitely some very nefarious comments. I mean, things I'm not used to.
Let me tell you
Yeah.
about 0 hour. Let me tell you about 0 hour. Here's a guy who did a 30-minute periscope about my friend and business partner, Brian Hassine, for 30 minutes.
I don't know who Brian Hassine is at all.
You don't?
No, I don't. But I mean, so
Brian
he's your
Hassine
business
is the third director of MAGA Coalition. Myself, Adam Gingrich, and Brian Hassine are the board of directors. Brian Hassine is the treasurer of MAGA Coalition. Okay? And 0 hour did a 30-minute periscope calling him a dirty Jew. He has admitted to this.
You have that? He called him a dirty Jew?
Yes. I can send you
Holy
a screenshot of him making excuses why he called him a dirty Jew. He's admitted to calling him a dirty Jew.
Holy shit.
0 hour has put out multiple, if not dozens, if not hundreds of tweets depicting black people as Sambos, using Sambo imagery, didn't do nothing imagery, calling all sorts of things. He says, I hate women. Do you know how many tweets and screenshots I have him calling women cunts? He says all Glenn does is call women cunt and whore, when in fact, he's the one doing it. All in my folders, all will be put into the lawsuit. And he will not be able to wriggle away under those lights in the courtroom. He won't be able to make a sock account and pretend that a new person has joined the discussion, which is really him, making up some bullshit. We will be bringing you to justice, my friend.
Hey, what's this
Your
guy's
bullshit
favorite
ends.
dress?
And if you want to see this stuff, I will make it available to you so you can draw your own conclusions. There are no tweets by me
Definitely.
under any account where I'm posting pictures, racist imagery of black people with watermelon smiles and shit like this. There's no way that I'm going on Periscope calling people dirty Jews.
You have this?
And the people that were making light of this, people like James R., people like Brendan Dilley, making excuses for this behavior. I have that on Periscope too, downloaded onto my hard drive. Question, Bill Mitchell, why did you tolerate your co-hosts being involved with this nonsense? You did nothing. They're still on your show. You think it's funny. Fuck you.
I mean, like watermelon smiles, things like that. They did all that?
When we're off, Give me your email address. I'll drop it into a Dropbox folder. Look for yourself. Decide for yourself.
Damn. Okay.
It's all a big joke. It's all a big joke, isn't it? I'm just not laughing anymore. As my friend Smooch Panda is typing here, they refuse to disavow racism and anti-Semitism, and that's the key. They think it's funny. They called me a social justice warrior because I pointed out doing a 30-minute Periscope attacking my friend as a dirty Jew is beyond the pale. It was beyond the pale in 1950. It's beyond the pale in 2018.
Damn, it's all shocking. Crazy. It really is crazy.
All of these things have been discussed at great length. You know, it's not like I'm saying anything brand new here. The history we have with this other group is well known. It's all there, you know, the months and months and months of Periscopes dealing with these issues. I've moved on. We're on Vimeo. We've left these people behind in the sewer of Periscope and let them do what they're going to do. As far as the things that were done to the MAGA coalition, that will be dealt with legally, properly. It won't be adjudicated on my show or your show or anyone else's show. But most of these people we're talking about are not involved in any litigation. They're just people who are caught up in something. You know, they feel some attachment to Brendan Dilley. It became their jihad almost, and they view me as somebody who humiliated Brendan Dilley. It never occurs to them Brendan Dilley was the one who humiliated Brendan Dilley, not me. All I did was point out the emperor had no clothes. But that, to someone who's mentally imbalanced, might be just enough for the threats. The threats to start.
I think that me and a lot of other people thought it was weird about the fundraising for 50,000 and then the 1% that he got in the vote. And then, like, what I'm more worried about in Arizona is about him going for 200,000, and then him making the proclamation he's going for 2% of the vote. To me, that doesn't seem like a legit candidate, to be honest. But
I felt he was an illegitimate candidate. Now I know he's an illegitimate. So it went from suspecting he was full of it to knowing that he's full of it. So I don't care. I mean, look, they know my position on Dilley. They know my position on Vandersteel, her husband, the rest of it. It's all old news. But
I don't know. I mean, right.
That's why you guys are not really. You're not part of that. Insofar as, maybe you are, by having me on, they will view you now as the enemy. Most likely, they will just let it go, provided I don't come back onto New Right Network.
Well, we're not doing that because, again, we talk to whoever the fuck we want, anytime we want.
Of course.
If you don't
but my own inclination is to focus on my own deal. Right. I mean,
mine is too.
We've had people. There have been some pretty big people in the new media world that wants me to come on their show on a regular basis. And I'm trying to convince all of them, like I'm trying to convince you now, it probably isn't a great idea. Once or twice a year, maybe. But anything beyond that, you will then be lumped in
I doubt you're that toxic, my man. I think you're fine.
No, I'm not. But my enemies are toxic, right?
I'm used to dealing with it. I'm from the Donald. That's fine. I mean, I'm used to dealing with toxic enemies.
Yeah, when was the last time you had someone Periscope racking the slide on a car, 45, saying your name and saying they're coming for you?
I had someone threaten to murder my children.
Okay, that's good. That's right up there. Mm-hmm. You win.
I was hacked during the election, and I had from a biker gang that I want to talk about on your Periscope, saying they were going to drag me out and destroy my head with a ball-peen hammer. I did have that.
Well, okay. So we're all in the same boat then, right? Mm-hmm. So,
no, I mean, I know what it's like, but I'm not scared. I mean,
I'm going to have to try harder.
Desperado, you'll get there. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
By the way,
don't worry, my friend.
Glenn's a great conversationalist, right? But again, I just wanted to say on your Periscope, the New Right Network, we talk to who we want to talk to, and we don't bow down. That's the way it's going to be.
Well,
Period.
on my Vimeo, we're no longer on Periscope because my enemies conspired to have me
I apologize.
deplatformed. By the way, 12,576 people have watched my show so far. And during the entirety of the show...
Then I thank you, by the way.
It says AMA with New Right Network, newrightnetwork.com is displayed during the entirety of this broadcast.
My man.
Thank you very much, Glenn, as always. Sit around, hang out with these guys. I'm surprised. JJ is an Indian. That's a he is a tech guy, and he always asks things that aren't necessarily what. JJ, ask the question you want to ask. Go ahead.
Okay, so hey there. So I'm a
He's
little
just his own person.
So what I sort of identify myself as in this modern age is I would call myself a Trump skeptic, not like outright against Mr. Trump. However, Mr. President Trump. However, there are times where he seems to deviate from what would be considered conservative, and I wonder what your thoughts are on Trump skeptics, such as people I would identify with, like Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, and I would think also Mark Levin maybe on occasion.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think in others of the like, and also I also see this movement among young conservatives who seem to align more with the anti-intervention, like the non-interventionist libertarians, and there
Yes.
seems to be a merger of those two factions. And how would you see that impacting the MAGA movement as a whole?
It's not part of the MAGA movement, right? MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, it means that Donald Trump is the center of the movement. If you're not putting Trump in the center, then you can still be part of the right. You can still be part of the conservative movement, libertarian movement, whatever, but you're not MAGA, right? So Ben Shapiro is very smart, young man. He's a very good speaker. He's a good debater, but he's not MAGA. And being skeptical of the president is healthy. I'm skeptical of the president, but I also know that this is the first president in a long time that is using chaos as a tool to govern. In other words, he will say things designed to enrage his allies and shock his enemies. He comes out and says, oh, maybe we could just lock these people up and take away their guns before getting the proof. And everyone freaks out. Everyone the next day is on Periscope and Twitter. That's it. I'm off the train. That's it. He finally did it. I can't take any more of this crap. But within 3 to 4 days, it becomes eminently clear that he was fucking with people. That this is a master level troll in the White House. And you're seeing his poll numbers go up, even in the rigged polls. Why? Because he's able to connect with that centrist independent vote, which we've been told the last 30 years is the key to having a governing majority. He's able to connect with them to make them think that he actually is willing to do something on gun control, when in fact, he's protecting gun rights. He's connecting with people that normally would never consider voting for a Republican. That's how he got into the White House. He's using these techniques that CEOs use all the time. Psychological persuasion. A traditional politician would never do it because they're not comfortable working in any other world than the speech is written the week before you deliver it. And when the time you deliver it, you've memorized every word. And God forbid you ever ad lib or speak extemporaneously. That's way too chaotic for the world of politics. But in case you haven't noticed, Trump thrives on that. So it's a new experience for a lot of people. And I don't trust any politician. This is not some cult where we just give excuse after excuse. If Donald Trump makes a mistake, I will say, I think he's made a mistake. And then all of the little, the cultists will attack me for being a Trump hater because I'm making the statement. I think it was a mistake having Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. I think that turned out to be a fucking nightmare for the president. So what is my alternative? To insist that Jeff Sessions was the greatest pick of all the people who could be Attorney General? He was the greatest, and he is the greatest? If you want that, you can listen to Bill Mitchell. If you want reality, as I see it, listen to Cernovich, listen to Jack Posobiec, listen to me or Adam Gingrich. We're all saying that you should question everything. And one of the things I think you should question is that Donald Trump's style, this chaotic style, is an actual CEO methodology. He's bringing the methodologies of the boardroom to the White House for the first time. And nobody is being told about it, and nobody understands what they're seeing. But he's hoping that in a year or two, the results will speak for themselves.
God bless Donald Trump.
Well, we love Donald Trump when he wins and he does something good for the country. But if he does something that hurts the country, then I will be the first one to say so. Right? Because he made certain promises when he was running. If he goes against what he said, I will turn on him. And I've said that too. And that is what we call common sense, right? The thing is, all the people who've already jumped off the Trump train, only to jump back on it, only to jump off it, only to jump back on it, after a while it becomes a farce. It's comical. Either you believe Donald Trump, there's a method to the madness, in which case certain statements can be viewed in a longer context. Or you think he's just a madman who's constantly changing his mind. If that was the truth, then he would never have been successful in business.
Hey, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
Brendan Gilly was just on the server about a minute ago. And he listened to you for a minute and then jumped back off.
Who did?
Brendan Gilly.
Oh, good. Someone told him, he's talking about you. I would wish to live in a universe where I never have to mention him again. I thought we were done with Brendan Dilley, and I wasn't even thinking about him when he got himself banned off Twitter and then blamed me for it. And suddenly, people are asking me about him again. That's the joke that's on me, is that after his political implosion, I was done.
Is he just a little bitch or something? Or, why is he targeting you like this?
Because I mocked him.
And so he's butthurt. It's all about the butthurt.
Yeah, for 45 days, I spent 45 days with a countdown timer on my show. And it was the countdown to humiliation. Because my point was, this guy's lying to you. He's not going to get more than 2% of the vote. He's making up all this bullshit that he's got 41% in the polls. It's all lies. And when the voting actually takes place, he will be exposed as the gaslighting liar that he is. And sure enough,
and you were
right.
Vindicated. He got 1.03% of the vote, or just shy of 1%.
Right. And then the day before the election, I went on Periscope and said, because his little minions were coming in, if he wins, are you going to turn on him again? Are you going to? And I said, no. If he wins, I will do everything possible to make sure he gets elected, because no one should ever help the Democrats. But I told people for 2 months, he ain't winning. He's going to be a washout. It's a fake candidacy. It's 734 votes, 50 grand. It's a joke. And so when he lost, I felt vindicated after 2 months of being shit on by all of his little cult members. I did 2 hours of savage takedown and commentary and comedy on him. And we had a good time. Me and Ginger McQueen and Adam Gingrich. We pointed out to the world that they have lied to you. There were no polls showing him in the lead. They just made that up. They raised $50,000, and they knew weeks before that they were never going to win anything. They weren't even going to make it to top 5 or 6. You know, he was dead last.
He was second to last, or
Yes.
very close to it.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see him back on this server.
Oh, don't discount that. Vandersteel encouraged Brendan Dilley to run, just like Vandersteel, as we speak, she's trying to get other candidates running all around the country. And so, look, I have no way to prove it, but it seems to me, given the Dilley debacle, I think it might be wise to take a careful look at the goings-on of these candidacies. You know, why are they running? How much money are they raising? What is the result of all of it? I think these are fair questions. And when you get a guy like Dilley, who my wife, she didn't even know what was going on. She doesn't keep tabs on all of the machinations of MAGA Coalition. I keep her out of it for a reason. I don't want it to affect her. But she would see me watching this guy's scopes, and she referred to him as the stoned guy. She goes, "You watching that stoned guy again?" So it just seems to me that if the aim is to be a congressman, I myself told Dilley, even after I turned on him, I gave him some good advice. I said, dude, you got to wear a clean button-down shirt, semi-dress pants with leather shoes, and for God's sakes, catch a shave. You're trying to run for Congress. You can't look like you just rolled out of the Bong Club, the 2 Bong Club. You got to get it together. The next day, he's clean-shaven in a dress shirt, wearing a leather belt, chinos, and leather shoes. He's clean-shaven, driving, wearing mirrored sunglasses, and I will say, he looked good. Too bad that the 90% of the time during his campaign, as we say in New York, he looked like a schlumper. He looked like a homeless guy. It's not real. He's not serious. I could go on and on. I don't know why I am. It's all done. It's in the past. So what? He blames me for his Twitter account being taken away. So I blame him for my Periscope account being taken away. What does it mean? Nothing. Who cares? I'm over it. I've moved on. But how can they prove anything? How can I prove anything? I can't prove that he took my Periscope away. He can't prove I took his Twitter away. One thing is for certain. On his Twitter, he made material threats to liberals who mass reported him. And on my Periscope, I did a show from inside a guy's asshole. Yes, I did. Using a green screen, I did an entire show from inside someone's ass. So when my Periscope was taken down, I kind of laughed because I was thinking, what took them so long? You do a show from inside a guy's rectum, I'm thinking they're going to take your account down. I was making jokes with my friend Obi and Smooch Panda that as soon as I did that show, I told Obi, clock is ticking. This account is toast. The difference between me and Dilley is I'm not going to lie and blame people that I can't prove did it. So my account went down. Certain people took credit. I attacked them publicly for taking credit. But I have no idea if they were the ones. Maybe it was just me doing a show in a guy's ass. And that's what happens. In his case, he's saying he's going to shoot people. I'm thinking Yeah, that's right, Jerry. In my comments, the Rectal News Network is what I renamed MAGA News Network to Rectal News Network. And I did a couple of shows from inside the guy's asshole who had made the threats against me of he's going to come over and murder me, right? So anyway, I'm thinking I'm a big boy. I can take it. You know, if I'm going to do Bill Mitchell shows, then I would be outraged that my account was taken down because I'm so squeaky clean on camera. But I'm not. I did a show from inside some guy's fucking asshole. Imagine the green screen. If you want to see it, go to maganews.net and do a search for RNN. And you can watch it in all of its glory. The undulating anal muscles, green screen behind me, right? So that's probably why my account was hosed. And Brendan Dilley saying he's going to shoot people, that's probably why his account was hosed. And everything else is just a bunch of butthurt feelings. I lost my Periscope, and I'd love to blame Your Voice America and Brendan Dilley. I may suspect they had something to do with it. I can't prove it. I've moved on. I'm on Vimeo now. And we had 13,630 total plays so far on this show.
Hot damn.
Yes, people are reminding me of the sound effects I used on the Rectal News Network. It was a combination of dripping pipe water and farting. This is why they hate me.
It's still better than CNN.
Yes, I think it's much better entertaining. The entertainment value is superior. But
Hey, it's like you said, you gotta have fun. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
right. And I knew that if I did the show, that I probably would lose the Periscope account. But I did it anyway, because it was too good an opportunity to pass up. I'm in it to have a good time as well as to make political points. I don't care, if at the end of this journey, I can never be involved in politics again. I don't care. I have an opportunity now, and I'm going to make the most of it to try to do the things that I think need to be done. And if people don't like it, they can suck my fucking cock every day. And you'd be amazed all the people that came along for the ride when I left Periscope. Our numbers quadrupled since I left Periscope. I suspect Periscope has been using algorithms to suppress conservative voices and their viewership.
It wouldn't be the first social media platform to do that. We saw that a lot on Reddit as well.
Wayne, you're friends with Wayne, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I talk to Wayne occasionally, and the last time I talked to him was a few days ago, and he was telling me how he has proof that Periscope, YouTube, the rest of them are fucking with his stats to keep them low. I never cared. I never got into this for viewership. I'm not trying to monetize it, People offer to send me money, and I tell them no. Donate to MAGA Coalition. I don't need your money. I'm doing this because I believe it. I happen to believe the things I'm saying, and like it or hate it, it's what I think, and that's why I'm doing it. But look at these people trying to raise money. And what is the reason? Send me money so I can continue to tweet or post on Facebook. Really? So now tweeting has become a job. Interesting. What other jobs are out there that we can do like that? Maybe every time I take a shit, I can take a picture of it, and if it's a good shit, a healthy one from a doctor's perspective, maybe you all can send me $5. If it's more on the diarrhea side, maybe you can send me $1. And for my Patreon followers, I will send you stool samples every week.
Oh God, Patreon is the worst.
Well, you need to have that special content to get people on the inner circle, right? So I think the stool sample thing, or maybe bottled farts, could be a great inducement for people to sign up on my Patreon at the $50 a month level. I mock it all. I spit on it. I shit on it. Where is activism if you have to get paid? Laura Ingram, where is your patriotism? Or is it just a paycheckism? You won't even defend yourself. People are tweeting at me, we've got to defend Laura. Why? Why should we defend Laura Ingram? She won't defend herself. You'll be a fucking grade A sucker if you go and defend someone who won't defend themselves. Go ahead, become a sucker. I like helping people that will fight. Those are people worth going into battle with, not somebody who already has given up and run away. And I raised money only one time. For one time, I've asked my audience to raise money. And it wasn't for me. It was 4 days ago, so we could raise over $1,000 for Wayne Dupree. He didn't have the money to go on to Vimeo. And so we raised it for him. And that's the only time I've asked anyone to reach into their pocket. And it wasn't for myself. And fuck all these people who are looking to turn their political activism into a paycheck. Fuck you.
Hey, guys, I got to jump off, man. I'm going to hit the sack.
All right, Des, take it easy.
Talk to you guys
All
later.
right, so I think that's it. It was a pleasure implicating you in my world of shit. I hope you enjoy the flavor and the smells now that you're here with me.
I'm sure I'll sleep like a baby.
I do. I sleep better now than I did at any time in my life. Because I know that in the ancient world, the exercise of vital powers was considered, in the time of Socrates, as the definition of a well-lived life. To be self-aware, to examine oneself, and to exercise your vital powers. That was considered a successful existence. And I think, at least for the last 6 months since joining MAGA Coalition, I feel that that is what has been happening. And to my enemies, fuck you. Better wear lead underwear, because it's going to be very soon. You're going to be feeling something funny, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, definitely keep us up to date over here at New Right Network. After this lawsuit gets settled and some of the dust gets settled, let's get you back on and we'll talk about it.
Well, the lawsuit is not going to be settled for a year, maybe a year and a half. It's the nature of litigation. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and we'll hopefully talk again offline, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you have an interest in seeing some of these things that I had mentioned, I'll be more than happy to share it with you so you get a better idea of the actual situation that we're dealing with.
All right, yeah, I'm a bit curious. I want to see these threats that Ryan claims to have gotten, because I'm here in my own little bubble. I haven't gotten anything, but who am I? I'm just some weirdo who wrote a science fiction novel about Donald Trump. I'm minding my own business, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, who was I? I was just some semi-retired middle-aged guy living in the forest in Pennsylvania, having almost no human contact beyond my wife and a few friends, and teaching a few firearms classes once or twice a month. I mean, I was off the grid. I was done, and happy for that. And look at me now. It's unbelievable. But the thing is, unlike most people, I will go to the umpteenth level to fight. I don't care if I look foolish or even I end up mocking myself. If it means winning, I'll put on a dress and lipstick and fake tits. If that's what it takes to win, sign me up. And that's why they hate me. And that's why I will win. And they lose every day. Thank you for your time.
Glenn, thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, my friend.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. And there he goes. He's gone. Now it's just us guys. He's a nice guy. I talked to him on the phone once or twice to set this up. Seems like a real smart guy. This New Right Network seems like an interesting concept. But, you know, for us here in the MAGA News Network side of things, it becomes kind of repetitive. The 0 hour crap and Dilly and Ann. It's just like, I'm leaving all that to the lawyers. Now, the thing about an AMA is they told me before walking into it that anyone who asks a question, they're going to make me answer it. Okay, fine. So I did. For us here, it was all repetition. We've lived this for the last 5 months, right? Oh, good, Obi. You're going to do an Obi vision. So, yeah, you got to be a fly on the wall on this thing with the New Right Network. And that makes me want to, at this point, let's get back to the old MNN, which is the way we do it here. So there it is. MNN is back. I thank you all for watching this show, which got 14,315 total plays so far. And that's pretty amazing. I'm trying to be careful to only repeat things I've already said vis-a-vis the pending litigation, not to give away anything new. But I mean, the thing is, before we even sent the cease and desist, I don't think there's only one thing. There's only one thing left that you guys don't know about that period. Everything else was already revealed. So I'm repeating what has already been said. I'm not giving anything new. But anyway, it's a good way to see how someone who's not aware of this recent unpleasantness, for him, it's all new. It's like a new thing. And he's trying to figure out what's going on. For us, this is like so 2017, right? We're on Vimeo. I'm trying to up our game on Vimeo. Hopefully after this week, going into next week, Obi and even Smooch Panda will be doing Vimeos. Anyone else want to do some Vimeos? You know how to DM me. And thank you very much. Obi, you can take it away. Thanks for coming down, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.